What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It's your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today over on our YouTube page. You can also check us out over on Facebook, as well as Twitch for you gamers out there, guys. Thank you so much for certainly joining us for another episode here this week as we wrap up your weekend. We got 6 topics we're going to be breaking down for you guys today, a couple honorable mentions, and of course, towards the end of our video, we'll be getting into your guys' live viewer questions. So if you haven't submitted your questions over, feel free to certainly go ahead and do so now. But guys, thank you everybody for certainly joining us here today. Should be a stacked show, should certainly be a fun show. While we don't necessarily have any special guests this week, though, we certainly do have ourselves a full cast, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. The nerds of the round table are in fact back. Unite! As Indy and Stuart are certainly here to join us. It's certainly good seeing you guys again here this weekend. What's up, y'all? How's everybody doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Another weekend, whatnot. I was telling you earlier, so I started rewatching Star Trek: The Next Generation. My goal was to do just one episode a day. I ended up enjoying it way too much because now I'm like almost done with season 6, so I just got one more season to go.
I feel like my stepdad would be super proud of you, man. He used to love Next Generation. He raised me on that stuff. And then after that, I jumped into Voyager. That Voyager is always a Star Trek series I've always wanted to go back and revisit for myself. He used to be big into Deep Space Nine. I couldn't get into Deep Space Nine. I felt like it was a little bit too mature for me, I think, at the time. What about you? What about you guys, Indy? You have any favorite Star Trek series that you watch, and what are your thoughts, Stuart?
Star Trek series, favorite Star Trek series? Probably Voyager. I don't know what it is about that. It just piqued my interest and kept me interested in what was going on. It helped focus my mic over here.
I love the idea of a female captain, and I had a huge crush on 7 of 9 back in the day, man.
Oh, 7 of 9 was amazing. Was a really, really dope.
I've never loved a Borg so much in my life.
yeah, facts. Star Trek is I guess it's something where it doesn't matter what version is on. It's like one of the things, like, if you got nothing else to do, it's something that'll satisfy your palate because they give you some of everything. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to science fiction, there's something that's going to pique your interest in one of the series, you know, depending on what's going on. I don't know. I think I just like the gambling on Voyager. And I dug Deep Space Nine too. And to be honest with you, a lot of the newer iterations of Star Trek are very well done and don't get enough praise. You know what I'm saying, for how well they are doing things, and it's got to be hard trying to keep that canon together. We talk about Marvel and DC and everything. Star Trek canon is hard to try to make sure that you satisfy the fans. Like, no, this person can't exist because of this, and this. I just watch them rip some stuff apart sometimes.
One of my favorites was Deep Space Nine, when they went back in time during the Triple Trouble episode of the original series. And because Klingons had a very different makeup, like back then, they didn't have like kind of the bumps on their head back then. There's like the scene, there's like the scene where they're all sitting at a table. They look at the Klingons, and then they look at Worf, and Worf is just like, we don't like to talk about it.
Yeah, I do. I have been watching. I watched the first 2 seasons of Star Trek Discovery on Paramount. I really enjoyed those 2 seasons. I just haven't gotten back into it just because there's so much Star Trek content, I feel like, out there right now. The Picard series, I think they got a Strange New Worlds show, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's like an animated show, unless that's
Lower
the same
Decks
thing.
I didn't know. I didn't know
comedy. Yeah, Lower Decks. I don't think. It
is canon though. Even though it's like a Rick and Morty style sci-fi show, they treat it as canon.
I will say I am. Oh, go ahead.
They do got like characters from Lower Decks that I think are supposed to be showing up on Strange New Worlds. Like the live action counterparts are actually going to show up on Strange New Worlds. So crazy. Haven't checked out Strange New Worlds yet, but I am addicted to Lower Decks. So that is something that will probably make me migrate over.
I will say I am happy about the explosion, at least that Star Trek has had over the past few years lately for their franchise. I feel like they're hitting, they're hitting the gas at the right time, honestly. But I do wonder if like true Star Trek fans, I wonder if true Star Trek fans are happy with their content, or if they feel like, oh, it's not like the old stuff, Like I wonder if the newer generations maybe not necessarily a big fan of it, but who knows?
I hear my buddy Alex, who is a huge Star Trek fan, doesn't like it. But then my dad, who is the biggest Star Trek fan that like you will ever know, loves the new Star Trek shows.
Oh yeah, he does.
How does he not like Discovery? Is so well
It's so
done.
good. Yeah, I think it's so well done. Yeah. But again, who knows? Maybe some Star Trek fans will be like, "Well, you're not true Star Trek fans," so maybe that's So who knows? I'll just say this: I do think that Will from last week from Scene and Nerd, I think he would love to have this conversation with us to kick off the show if he was here. Big Star Trek fan, Will Polk is.
Or just give Sasha her zombie episode. Have everybody on the Discovery turn into zombies, and she has to go around and disable them all.
Have her be like, why does this feel so familiar?
The most experience, right? Awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, listen, thank you everybody for joining us today. We do have ourselves a pretty big stacked show. Some quick shout outs for you guys, though. We got Enrique Perez in the house. And do us a big favor, too, guys, especially if you're in the live chat. If you stop by to go ahead and drop your name in here just for shout outs, hit that like button along the way. It literally takes you less time to type your message than it does to hit the like button. So hit that like button, please, when you guys stop by. Adam Perea is certainly in the house. Stuart certainly joining us today. We got Kurt Marino here as well. Abase certainly coming through along with Roberto Buena. My boy Adrian Perez is in here also, along with the most talented man in the world. We got Nicole Robertson. What's up, Nicole? Always good to see you around here. Francois, the international superstar, has joined us. Jack Daniels, because it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Good old Jackson Peterson here, not to be mistaken for Peter Jackson. Carter Matthews joining us today as well. Good old Morgan Hutchinson certainly making her presence felt. We got John Schuyler here today. Good old Dino Knights is joining us. Blossom's in the house. What's up, A+ crew? It's good to see you, Blossom, as always. Datilla's in here as well. She says, I hope you watched Elimination Chamber, Adam. No, I have not had the opportunity to watch it yet. Me and the girlfriend, we went to go start it last night. And I think when we went to go start it, the press conference was on. So Peacock does this weird thing where it's like, if the press conference was on, but it doesn't let you go back and actually watch the live event that just happened. It's almost like their video has to process first, and then they have to re-upload it or something for it to be available for replay. So I literally had to wait for the press conference to be over. And in the meantime, while that was going on, we watched SmackDown from yesterday or from Friday that we missed. So we watched SmackDown to catch up. And by the time we started Elimination Chamber, it was almost like 1 a.m. in the morning. And so I think we got into the first Elimination Chamber match. I don't think we ever finished it, though. So I am going to be trying my best to avoid spoilers for the remainder of the day until I do get to finish it later on tonight. So
you might not even make it through this pod, to be honest with you.
I may not, bro. I may not. So I'm gonna try to do my best. But thank you everybody for certainly coming through for the shout out portion of today's show. Do we have any honorable mentions, guys? You guys have anything you guys want to discuss? Honorable mentions that didn't make our cut here this week?
I do.
What you got?
Me.
Is it Elimination Chamber talk?
No, it's wrestling talk though. It's wrestling talk, so it might spark Datilla's interest. At a GCW match this past week, our friend of the show, Leo Rush, did something very incredible. He walked out with Jenna Frank to pay honor during his entrance, to pay honor to, one of his idols, Jason David Frank. And the crowd was surprised. They didn't know how to react to it. It was a and then like a cheer. You know what I'm saying, when they saw her come out. So I thought that was really awesome, because he has come out in Ranger gear before for matches, and that's just an awesome tribute to the man, the legend. You know what I'm saying? So appreciate that.
That's pretty cool, man. Absolutely. Jenna Frank, she's doing music now, isn't she?
Yeah,
she's doing some rapping of some sort.
something
something like that.
Yeah,
That's that what you're trying to call it?
Yeah, leave that to your sister. Leave that to
What about you, Stuart? You got any honorable mentions today?
Yeah, so recently I think it wasn't a retweet. I think it was something that James Gunn posted on his Instagram. But basically there was I believe it was comicbook.com article talking about the 10 heroes that haven't been announced yet, but 10 like DC characters that they think would be perfect for James Gunn. So it was Dick Grayson, Martian Manhunter, Lobo, Brainiac, Deathstroke, Jason Todd, Zatanna, Court of Owls, Mr. Freeze, and then John Constantine. And
James, if I can bring up that image real quick.
Yeah, because I was like trying to look for it. All I could find, I couldn't find it, so I just ended up going to a YouTube video that also has that image up.
I got you.
But anyways, James Gunn ended up sharing that. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, yeah, that's actually the exact post I was talking about too. He shared it saying, "Will 5 of the 10 do?" Not specifying which of the 5 that were on this list, but regardless, it is kind of cool knowing that 5 of these characters we can probably expect to see sometime in the near future, within like one of the upcoming projects that have already been announced, probably.
Who are your 5? You thinking?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And you too, Indy. What you pick your 5?
I think Martian Manhunter, Lobo, and Brainiac all have a very big chance of showing up in the next Superman movie. I also think there's a good chance Nightwing's going to show up in the Batman movie. And then just because it's James Gunn, and I know he likes horror, and he's probably going to use Swamp Thing to explore like the dark side of the DC universe. I'm going to say Zatanna is my number 5 of who I think is going to show up at some point.
Gotcha. So you got Nightwing, Martian Manhunter, Lobo, Brainiac, and Zatanna?
Yep.
What about you, Indy? Who do you think out of the 10, if you could pick 5, who do you think James Gunn's working with?
Zatanna. No. In all honesty, Zatanna, Mr. Freeze, John Constantine, I want Deathstroke so bad, but I just feel like we're not going to get Deathstroke. Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, because I really feel like he's going to explore the whole Bat family. So if you got more than one Bat family member on this list, you're probably going to have more than one Bat family member in that 5. So,
yeah, I'm probably going to go with Nightwing, Zatanna, Lobo, Deathstroke, and I'm leaning Martian Manhunter or Brainiac. Roman Reigns for Lobo. Yeah, I'll go since Stuart already said Martian Manhunter. I'll go Brainiac. Even though I was hoping for a Martian Manhunter project. If anything, I think Nightwing will probably pop up in the Brave and the Bold. There's a part of me that also wonders if Deathstroke might pop up in Brave and the Bold, if it's based off of the Batman and Son storyline or Batman and Robin storyline. I think I want to say Deathstroke has a story in there. Maybe they rehire Joe Manganiello to play Deathstroke, who, for all we know. And then I'm hoping for Zatanna. If anything, my hope right now, guys, is that Ben Affleck comes back and directs Brave and the Bold.
Yeah,
he had always been wanting to do a Batman film, so I think that'd be pretty cool if he managed to direct that one.
No, your hope is that Zatanna really comes out, or you might find James Gunn missing.
Well, I'll know the prime suspect.
Tied in the basement. I'm going full Eminem.
We literally have video evidence right here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, a couple quick other honorable mentions we'll get into for you guys. We'll start off with Power Rangers because Once and Always is back in the news. We wind up actually getting ourselves some brand new photos of David Yost, Walter Jones, and Charlie Kirsch as Billy, Zach, and Min. They're in the Rad Bug 2.0. Looks like they're leaving the cemetery, maybe arriving, but they're definitely having a good time. That's for sure. Or at least Min certainly is.
I really hope that's a good time, like just during filming and not in the episode as you're leaving
in the cemetery.
Like, yay, my mom's dead! Yay!
I mean, somebody was pointing out to me like Walter Jones just looked like he's had enough. Like he's had enough of prancing around with this kid, babysitting and stuff. He's probably over it already. But I'm really excited to kind of to see just these three in action. Honestly, I think they're gonna have great chemistry on screen.
It's like with Walter and David Yost, they look like they're trying really hard to like get ready and be into character, you know, for the shoot. And then she's just there having a good time, like, whatever, I can get into character whenever.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it. Absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely true. Red is not a flavor. Definitely looks like he wants to hit that eject button faux show. If not for himself, then definitely for men. So yeah, let us know your thoughts, guys, on the two new photos. I believe this drops April. I don't know if they haven't given us a release date, have they?
I think you're right. April, right?
I think it's April. I just can't remember if it's like a specific date yet. I can't remember.
Question: with Netflix, are they dropping the entire season at one time?
This is just a special. It's a film. They're considering it a film. I think the runtime is 55 minutes. If I believe that's what I saw for the Netflix film. So 55-minute special, if you will.
Man, come on, man. The Turbo movie was longer than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not a movie. It's more of a special. So maybe if they considered it like a legit movie, then maybe it would a little bit longer. But yeah. You know, I'm surprisingly I don't have the Master Morpher stuff up here. I will say this: while I'm not a big fan of, well, I don't want to say I'm not a big fan. I don't really collect action figures and Lightning collection stuff like that. But I do know that the Illuminati just recently dropped an article stating that the Hasbro and the Lightning collection were going to be producing a Master Morpher, and they recently also released audio of Jason David Frank discussing in an interview the idea that he was working with Hasbro to go ahead and actually release the Master Morpher. In the audio that they released, he mentions the idea that Hasbro had plans on releasing the Morpher for I think it was the White Ranger Morpher. And he was like, no, guys, no. He's like, you want me to make you another $1 million? Do you want me to make you another $1 million? Let's go with the Master Morpher. And they ate it up. They absolutely loved it. And so the reason why it's being produced right now is because of JDF. And I even posted this on Blossom. Yeah, give us that Flargon ice cream. I definitely need that Flargon ice cream for sure from Hasbro. But, you know, one of the things that I posted over on Twitter was the idea. It's like, man, this guy is always giving back to his fans, right? Like, even in his passing, the man is still making things get done at Hasbro for the fans, and having them release this this special Master Morpher for everybody. So it just continues to just grow the legacy that is JDF to me, honestly, when I take a step back and just look at it. I mean, we already knew how hard of a worker that he was and how much he absolutely adored his fans, but the fact that he was working on this behind the scenes, it's unfortunate that he's not going to be here to see it finally, you know, actually happened for the fans. But just to know that even though he's gone, one of his wishes and one of the things he wanted for us fans was to get this, and we're actually going to be able to get it. So it continues to just hella impress me, man. Are you guys pumped for the Master Morpher, or what do you think about it?
I bought recently. I bought the white. I think I bought the White Ranger and the Red Zeo Rangers. Like it's something weird because I bought them maybe a year before he passed. Like, just they were there, and I was like, you know, let me pick these up. You know, maybe I'll meet them, maybe I'll autograph them. You know, and I haven't bought anything Ranger wise other than I think was it the Z helmet, or no, I got the Pink Ranger helmet, and I would be geeked for. I never got the Dragon Dagger that I wanted. Like, because I think like they had a short one, like the actual one that I wanted, and then like the ones that came out afterwards were like all pieces of crap. I want this, and it's not something like I gotta have it because, you know what I'm saying, the passing of the great JDF is because this basically signifies my entire childhood. Like every phase of Power Rangers, you know what I'm saying, will be intertwined with, you know what I'm saying, that one Morpher, and it'd be something that I'd be happy, you know what I'm saying, to display. Plus, I'm running out of space. Like I could take everything else down, put that one up. Like, okay, let's take care of all those seasons, and I could just, you know what I'm saying, move stuff over. So
I dig it, Indy.
That's funny. I have that kind of same thing going on. It's like right now I need to focus on trying to give some stuff away before I get anything else. But yeah, I think I'll make an exception though for the Master Morpher. It's like funny. I didn't really have any interest in getting it until you kind of like brought up the story. And now I'm like, you know what? I think I will get it now.
Yeah, definitely something worth grabbing for sure. But yeah, again, I continue to be amazed that even after his passing, he's still managing to give back to the fans in some way or another. A couple other topics real quick. We wind up getting ourselves some brand new posters because we got some shows that are up and coming. We got Superman and Lois, and they dropped this brand new poster here to go ahead and commemorate the third season set to begin March 14th. Hopefully we will be doing weekly reviews for you guys. Stuart may be tackling Superman and Lois for season 3, but that begins March 14th for you guys, so mark your calendars. If you want to know what else starts March 14th, Gotham Knights, the series that we're all highly anticipating around here. Gotham Knights is set to go ahead and drop March 14th, also airing right after Superman and Lois. I'm gonna bite the bullet on this one. I'm gonna be the one doing reviews for Gotham Knights here this time around, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it pleasantly surprises me. So March 14th is the big day, and you guys know Indy's already doing season 9 reviews for you guys for The Flash, and I think you said the episode 2 is dropping later on today, Indy?
yes, today after the podcast.
Okay, awesome. So look forward to that, guys. Staying in the realm of DC, we got ourselves our very first look also at Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn here, as we got our first photo from Joker 2, the upcoming sequel, as we got Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, and of course Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. What do you guys think of this photo? Does it get you even more hyped for this film, or what?
I definitely, I don't know if I'm any more hyped than I already was, but I definitely think it's a really cool looking photo. And it looks like they're actually going to be going with the same kind of origin for Harley Quinn as they did in the Batman, the animated series. So that gets me excited.
I'm a big fan of Lady Gaga just as an actress. So when I see her opposite of Joaquin Phoenix in here, for me, it's like, man, I can't wait to see how they're going to be on screen together and what their chemistry is going to be like, you know, especially if she's going to be channeling Harley Quinn. She's already a little crazy in her own right, respectfully. And so I am going to be interested to see how this turns out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I don't know if the picture gets me even more hyped, but I think if anything, it makes me more interested in Lady Gaga playing the Harley Quinn character. What about you, Indy? What are your thoughts after seeing this image?
I don't like. I'm not for it.
Really?
You're not a fan of Lady Gaga?
I'm not a fan of. No, I'm not. I wasn't a fan of the Joker movie.
Oh, you weren't? Okay, gotcha.
No, so I'm not interested in where the sequel is gonna go. Right now I feel like they're just milking a franchise when it comes to this. It's something that they know people be interested in, but they can do whatever they want to do because lore doesn't matter because it's an Elseworlds film. So it's one of them things where if I catch it on something, I might watch it. If not, I really don't care. I'm not interested in Lady. I haven't liked anything she's acted in. To be totally honest with you, I don't like her music. I just it's one of them things where if her name's tied to it, I'm probably not going to watch it.
You didn't like her in Machete Kills Again in Space?
She was in that movie?
Never even heard of that movie.
Didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't even know that was another Machete movie.
Or sorry, no, sorry, that was the third fake movie. Sorry, I think it was just Machete Kills Again. My bad. I forgot
like
the in space. No, the in space part was the fake trailer. My bad. But regardless, she's in like Machete 2, and she basically is like this bounty hunter who constantly changes her face. So I don't even remember if she was like the first face or the last face we see. But yeah.
And after that, we also got another brand new poster from the Marvel side of things. Speaking of Marvel, the Marvels.
Sorry.
They actually ended up changing the release date. This was originally supposed to be released in July. They have now officially pushed it back to November. But this is the very first teaser poster for the Marvels. I'm actually a really big fan of this this poster design. I think it's pretty cool. Not to say that there's like 3 different generations of heroes here, but it's I I dig the idea of seeing Captain Marvel in the middle. You got Miss Marvel at the bottom, who's just coming off of a fantastic series over on Disney Plus, and then you've got Monica Rambeau coming off of WandaVision. I believe she's going to be called
Spectrum.
Photon?
Spectrum. Yes. No, I don't think she's going Photon. I think she's going the Spectrum name in here. So I dig the I dig the poster. What do you guys think of it?
They made a brie sandwich.
Yeah, I'm sure you wish you were in there.
That caught me off guard. This feels like it is a cool cover, although it feels like they went to like any of like one of those sites where you just make album covers and they just took a base cover and then put the characters in them, you know what I'm saying, in the middle with a flare. That's what it looks like. But I'm interested in this. I'm also interested in this with the fact of the talks of how they're going to ramp down the shows, how they feel like they had too many Marvel shows like back to back and stuff like that, because Miss Marvel was a standout, you know what I'm saying, among those shows. And it is kind of 3 generations, considering that then that Captain Marvel, you know what I'm saying, was around when, you know what I'm saying, Photon was younger. Photon would be that middle generation, you know what I'm saying, coming back right after the snap. And then Little Marvel is you know what I'm saying, the newer generation, you know what I'm saying, the young Avenger. So it's going to be interesting, the stuff that they're playing with this movie, and how everything ties to the bands and what's going on and how they incorporate that and what's going on with the multiverse saga is what's actually going to have me really hyped for this movie. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like they were okay with pushing it back, because I think the setup needs a little bit more time to breathe before they drop all this on us, especially with what's going on with that man Kang right now. King Kang.
What do you think about it, Stuart? You like the poster?
I really like the poster.
Me too.
One thing that kind of stands up, bring it back up real quick. Just the way Monica's arms are, and just the kind of like, I guess you would call it like the energy aura around her. It gives me major Dragon Ball vibes. The big thing I'm really looking forward to in this movie is seeing Miss Marvel geeking out while being able to work with her favorite superhero, and then just like I could see her I could see Captain Marvel being annoyed by her in the beginning, and then like by the end, you know, learning how to like kind of, you know, work as a team, because she's always kind of going solo. So I feel like the arcs for the characters are just like the dynamics that we're going to have with these characters feel like they're going to work really well. And I can't, as long as there's effort put into it, which there usually is. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think for me, my excitement comes from the collaboration of all 3 of them. Like, I really want to see how they all interact on screen together. One, because I think it'd be really cool to see how Monica, what's up, Tony? How Monica and Carol get along, just because of the age gap now with everything that's happened. Now that she's an older woman, I kind of want to see how that relationship is built between the 2 of them, and really just how Miss Marvel fits into all of it. Because we're definitely going to get some fangirl moments from her for sure. But I really want to see all 3 of these women on screen kicking some ass together. I think it should be a really fun combination of the 3.
It's also going to be interesting because I remember like in WandaVision, it was almost implied like Monica didn't like Captain Marvel anymore.
She had like a problem with her, I think, or something.
Yeah. So I'm like very curious if we're going to learn what exactly that reason is. And it's going to be interesting having one person who doesn't like Captain Marvel and then one who's like a huge fangirl of Captain Marvel. I think that's going to be a fun combo.
I think it was separation anxiety, the fact that she went off planet and her mom died and all that when she was gone, and she always had an issue with that because she always said she'd be a good
conversation to have.
So them breaking that down is going to be cool, and it's going to be interesting how Miss Marvel can bring them back together with everything that she went through, you know what I'm saying, and going through similar things herself, especially with building the relationship back up with her mom and different stuff like that. Like her dealing with the loss that she had recently in her show, because this takes place almost like right after, you know what I'm saying, our show happens, and her using her own experiences to try to help them deal with their trauma. Because we have to remember there's a lot of time in between all this stuff happens, and I think that's where we get lost at when we're trying to follow the multiverse. we're jumping through huge gaps, and there's a lot of time happening in between what these characters are going through. So it's like a whole decade plus of stuff that Monica went through, and Carol's been off of Earth actually that long. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be interesting. Plus, I'll do anything to get Carol back on Earth to have more interactions with Thor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that should be a good one. And then last but not least, guys, just real quick, we did have 2 huge trailers that wind up dropping, final trailers, if you will, because we are right around the corner from March, where it really officially kicks off sort of this summer blockbuster season. And we've got 2 blockbusters that are going to be hitting, guys. We ended up getting a trailer for John Wick 4, the final trailer, and then I think another final trailer for Creed 3. I just want to say something about Creed 3. I'm just going to make the prediction right now that this movie is going to get nominated for Best Picture. Every time I see these trailers, guys, there's just one. I wouldn't even be surprised if Michael B. Jordan gets nominated for Best Director. Like, considering this fact that this is his directorial debut, all the shots and all the sequences that I've seen in here have been so captivating and just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm really a big fan of just how personal this story is really going to be. Anything that I've heard from Michael B. Jordan about this is talking about Adonis really taking matters into his own hands and this truly being his story. And I don't want to say this gives me vibes of like an early sort of Rocky film, whether that be like a Rocky 2 or whatever the case may be. This just feels like the pivotal movie for Adonis Creed to truly showcase what he is when he's sort of on his own. And so everything that I continue to see from this, 2 incredible actors. I think this movie is going to honestly wind up eventually getting nominated for an Oscar at some point in time. But both of these films look great. I'm sure we're all looking forward to this. But have you guys checked out any of these final trailers as of recent?
Adam, I want to be real with you. All that's good, what you just said, but the only thing that matters is that we got a Kang variant boxing.
So stupid.
You know what I'm saying? It's all connected. Think about it. This is nothing but Killmonger if he made the right choices. You know what I'm saying? This is Valkyrie if she was never who, you know what I'm saying? If she never became that. This is, you know what I'm saying, a Kang that made all the right choices. This is nothing
At this point, all of Hollywood's in the MCU. So it's like every movie that happens is connected.
I mean, that's what it feels like. You know what I'm saying? Because think about it, feels like the only movie stars that are thriving right now are those that actually do move, you know what I'm saying, work with the MCU or the DCU or something like that. There's something geek and nerd culture that they do that they're using to spur everything else. We have a third of a Marvel movie in this Creed 3. But no, I'm looking forward to this. I'm definitely this is definitely night 1C for me. I think the franchise done very well. I am of the ilk that people hate that the Creed movies are better than the Rocky movies. Movie for movie, to me personally, I'm sorry. Creed was better than Rocky. Creed 2 was better than Rocky 2. I don't care what nobody says. And
I agree with Creed 2 is better than Rocky 2.
Yeah, and Creed 3 is going to be better than Rocky 3. There's nothing you
Y'all
can tell
tripping.
me. There's nothing you could tell me about Mr. T or anything that's going to go on that's going to be better than Jonathan Majors beating the crap out of, you know what I'm saying, Michael B. Jordan, because I'll take Michael B. Jordan getting beat up any day. You know what I'm saying? That's just one at less man to fight over the women that I want. So that's going to be cool. John Wick. It's John Wick. You know what you go to see that for. Like going to see a John Wick movie is like going to see a Fast and the Furious movie. You know what I'm saying? You know you're going to see a lot of stuff that's not supposed to happen in real life, and you're going to eat popcorn and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a man movie.
With looking at Creed and John Wick. So I've been watching these trailers over and over because like I'm working Ant-Man and both the new trailers are playing during Ant-Man. So yeah, I think they both look absolutely fantastic. I think you're probably right about Creed 3. I would not be surprised at all if it gets nominated for an Oscar. But what gets me really excited also with this movie is some of the behind the scenes like interviews we've gotten with Michael B. Jordan talking about how the fight scenes are going to feel very anime-like. Like he uses anime influence with this. So
Megaloboxer, Dragon Ball, Naruto.
Which, that's, I don't know if you remember, but that's the vibe I got from one of the posters when you had the two of them just like, staring each other down, both of them like, really flexing. I'm just like getting the vibe that like if any of them hit each other, there's going to be a giant shockwave that's just going to level the entire building. I get like Dragon Ball Z vibes just looking at the posters. So I'm excited for Creed 3. And then, of course, John Wick 4, fucking Keanu Reeves. Give me I don't know. The one thing that concerns me is that, man, they almost ended John Wick 3. Like they almost had a perfect ending for it, and then they just had to like kind of add one little bit of a cliffhanger left in order to keep it going. So I hope they don't continue to do this for John Wick 4. I'm looking forward to it, but I do see this what's up? Did I spoil something?
No, you didn't. But go.
Oh,
I got an idea.
I just hope that they don't keep milking this franchise. I hope it like ends on a solid note with John Wick 4. But again, everything I've seen from the trailers looks absolutely fantastic. And like Indy was saying, you know exactly what you're going to get with these John Wick movies.
Adam, stay with me right here, okay?
Okay, quick though, so we can get in topics.
Yeah, John Wick is nothing but the setup for the final villain of the Fast and the Furious series. It's the origin story. It's the origin story for the final villain, and he just comes out and just wrecks everybody, and he stands alone at the end.
Who Keanu Reeves does is in Fast and Furious, and then he eventually reveals that he's really Dr. Doom, which then leads into the Fantastic Four movie, and it's a Marvel character all over again. MCU, baby, it's happening.
Paul Walker sent somebody to kill his dog.
Hey, it's all connected. Go up to 6 movies. We'll see how the 4th one does. 6 seems like a lot, but who knows, man? Who knows? We'll see how many trilogies that character has in it. But those are our honorable mentions, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for those. And let's go ahead and start getting into these main topics, guys, because it's getting we really into this show. Haven't even tackled our main topics yet. So let's you guys ready to go ahead and tackle some of these with us?
Of course.
Always.
Let's do this, baby. So our first topic that we're going to get into for you guys today comes to us from the MCU. Good old Entertainment Weekly this week had a sit-down conversation with Kevin Feige in preparation for the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which, mind you, box office numbers have in fact dropped as of today. Domestically, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has made $104 million domestically. Globally, it's at $225 million, if I'm not mistaken, also. So a very impressive opening weekend for Ant-Man and the Wasp, considering some of the mixed reactions that we've certainly have seen so far. But Kevin Feige sat down to certainly talk about not only Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but also just Phase 5 as a whole, maybe giving us a little bit more insight in regards to what we can expect, some further details to kind of enlighten some of these upcoming projects, and even some emphasis on the idea that when it comes to quantity over quality or quality over quantity, the MCU will certainly be making some changes to definitely go ahead and address it. And I think that's probably one of the things that I appreciate about Kevin Feige and Disney, or at least Kevin Feige, is the sense that they certainly do hear some of the complaints that people certainly have. And it wouldn't surprise me if maybe even Kevin Feige sort of notices it himself, whether that be him being stretched a little bit too thin, or maybe some of the quality of some of the MCU projects that we've gotten so far maybe haven't taken a dip because of the fact that there certainly are some mixed reactions amongst moviegoers out there in regards to how the MCU is certainly doing at this point in time. So I wanted to go ahead and jump into this article with you guys and just kind of pick and choose some things to certainly discuss about in this article. Just kind of pick your guys' brain in regards to what it is that Kevin Feige is talking about. I thought, look at that, I'm just coming all unprepared. So this comes to us from Entertainment Weekly, saying Kevin Feige opens up about Phase 5, Kang and the future of the MCU. I didn't know. It says here Feige 49. I didn't know Kevin Feige was 49. Does he look like he's 49 to you guys?
I thought he was older than that. I can't believe he was that young.
Oh, really? What about you, Stuart? Did you think he was 49? You thought he was older?
I would have guessed mid 40s, 45, 46.
Yeah, I don't know how. I just look at him and I'm just like, I can't tell. He's like an enigma to me, honestly. I'm going to go ahead and jump around here a little bit. It says, I know that you're calling phase 4, 5, and 6 the multiverse saga, all leading up to the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. How are you thinking about phase 5 specifically? Is there a through line or a general theme? He says it's really a classification system for the audience that's following along. It's to keep track of how the pieces fit in place. I didn't really talk a lot about the overarching themes or direction of phase 4 until afterwards, in large part because we were always adapting and weaving as creative demands and new ideas come up. But I would say, in the generalized term, as you see in Quantum Mania, it's about setting up the big overarching thread that will go through the next phases. Not every film in the Infinity Saga focused on the Infinity Stones or Thanos, and it'll be the same across phase 5 and 6. But we're gearing up. People will get a taste of this in a big way in Quantum Mania as we lead to Avengers Secret Wars. He says, I'm coming on 20. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a really good point, because I see so many people who are complaining about phase 4, talking about how they don't know what it's all building to, and how it seems to be very much scattered all over the place. And that always confused me, because phase 1 through 3, not like he says in that interview, not every movie in the phases 1 through 3 had an Infinity Stone, and not every one of them had a Thanos reference. There were just some of those few and far between, just like we have with currently with the multiverse and with Kang. Not every phase 4 Marvel movie is a multiverse movie, and not every phase 4 Marvel movie phase 4, 5, and 6 Marvel movie is going to have Kang in it.
King in it. Yeah, absolutely. He says, many of us have been together for a decade or more, and we only do it because we're so excited and in love with the potential of what we can do ahead. The storylines that weave together through phase 5 and 6 into Secret Wars, and the opportunity that the multiverse brings storyline wise, it's a whole new aspect to the MCU. It says, he says, phase 4 was a transitional era. Well, this is the question. Several of your original cast members left after Endgame, and you introduced a whole new group of heroes. You also started to embrace television, launching multiple shows on Disney Plus. What are some of the learnings or the takeaways from some of these projects? He says, I hope we learned something on every project. I was very pleased with everything that we did. Kamala Khan, for instance, is a great new character in the Pantheon. I'm very proud of Miss Marvel's show. I also know, and this is a spoiler, she essentially steals the Marvels, which is coming out July 28th. It makes me excited that people will, I hope, see that movie and then go back and revisit those shows on Disney Plus. The fun thing about streaming is that they are there forever and people can keep exploring them. Moon Knight, same thing. I think there's a future for that character as we move forward. So we are getting a little bit of a tease here that there's certainly more for Moon Knight to certainly come. Where he figures into things, who certainly knows. But Stuart, and if Indy's still there, one of the things that I did love about Miss Marvel's was I was really impressed with the main actress that wind up playing her, Iman Vellani. I think she pretty much stole the show in her own series. So this doesn't surprise me when he mentions the idea that she essentially steals the Marvels. I've been just as impressed with her as an actor as Miss Marvel as I was with Tom Holland as Spider-Man personally. And so I do think that there is some spoiler aspect to this, in a sense that we can expect really big things from Iman Vellani. I do think she's just that type of up and coming star. But what do you think? Do you think she's going to steal the show when it comes to the Marvels, Indy? What are your thoughts?
I honestly think so. With her, the most impressive thing about Miss Marvel was her character. She seemed like somebody who was really into it. And it's crazy because that was her first time acting. Her going through the explanation of how she did the casting, how she almost seemed like it was a scam, her getting the part and her being in this world that she loved because she was a nerd for the world in itself. Makes for some interesting things, and real fangirlism, what I'm saying, comes across on the screen, just like because she was the perfect embodiment of what that character was to start off with. So does she have an opportunity to steal the show? We all know how Brie Larson acts. Am I right?
Yeah.
We all know about Monica Rambeau, the young lady who plays her. At times her acting is subdued because that's how the character is. You know what I'm saying? It's a dude calculating, trying to figure out things. She was one of the bright spots of the WandaVision, you know what I'm saying, television show, but still, Elizabeth Olsen stole, you know what I'm saying, that show, as she should, because it's her namesake, you know what I'm saying, in the show. But yo, Iman has the opportunity to wow us all, mainly because she's basically a rare for a lot of people, unknown actress. So for this movie, it would be her introduction into a lot of people's lives, especially if they didn't watch, you know what I'm saying, Miss Marvel. So of course she's going to stand out being the new face, you know what I'm saying, among these seasoned actors and actresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you.
And
He
then,
also, oh, go ahead. Were you going to say
well,
something?
I was just gonna say, yeah, and you know, while I don't think being a fan should automatically mean that you get the role, I think in her case, her being a fan definitely does help with her role, because, you know, when we see the character geeking out, we know that a part of it is the actress
part of
herself geeking out, because she's also a Marvel fan, and I think that really helps with her performance.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can't wait to see how they collaborate on screen, man. He also goes on to say in that same question, he says, I do think one of the powerful aspects at being at Marvel Studios is having these films and shows hit the zeitgeist. It is harder to hit the zeitgeist when there's so much product out there. And so much content, as they say, which is a word that I hate, is what he says. He says, but we want Marvel Studios and the MCU projects to really stand out and stand above. So people will see that as we get further into phase 5 and 6, the space at which we're putting out these Disney Plus shows will change, so they can get a chance to shine. And the interviewer says, so when you say the pace will change, do you mean spacing them out or putting out fewer shows a year? And he says both, I think. So this definitely feels like, I don't know if this is Kevin Feige speaking, or if this is Bob Iger speaking through Kevin Feige, if they've already had sort of this conversation, or if Kevin Feige personally feels this way, that maybe there is a lot of content or product certainly out there, probably more than there certainly should be. But we just talked about it last week, that Bob Iger's mentioning the idea that Disney Plus is changing, or Disney in general is changing its strategies, that they definitely want to invest certainly more back into the movie side of things, where they know they're going to make billions of dollars, and maybe slow down a little bit in regards to other content in other areas, whether that be Disney Plus and things like that. And I think it definitely has, to a certain extent, taken a hit on the MCU. And so when you see Kevin Feige talking this way, mentioning that, hey, you know, hopefully you'll learn something for every project that you do, the fact that this is something that they're learning, in the sense that, hey, you know, we should probably spread these shows out a little bit more, so it allows us to truly focus on either one character for a significant time period, instead of, hey, we got this brand new series here, you introduce a brand new character, and then literally like a couple weeks later you got us watching another character, you know what I mean? So I do think that it is certainly important to certainly space them out, and hopefully going forward, if there are shows that haven't necessarily gotten into production yet, maybe they're going to be taking a little bit more time in putting those shows into production, so they can make sure that the quality over quantity is certainly there going forward. So I do think that this is a brilliant idea by Marvel Studios. You know, Stuart, I do want to talk to you about this real quick, because we mentioned the idea that James Gunn and Peter Safran had mentioned, you know, we want to do 2 and 2. Two movies a year, 2 television series a year. And I remember thinking at that time, when we talked about the DCU slate, we said, do you think that's a good amount? Is that too much, too little? And I think we both said that that's probably a nice round number to definitely explore. 2 for 2 every year. And I almost feel like that's almost probably a good way for Marvel to go also. But do you think they can fit even more in there, or what?
I mean, I think they've shown that they could fit more in there, but whether or not they should fit more in there is kind of the bigger question. Personally, I think, yeah, 2 and 2 would work really well for both Marvel and DC. I think it would also help with both of them, that like their fans then wouldn't have to have like weekends where it's like you got to choose one or the other. Because, you know, again, if we're going by the average moviegoer who only sees like one movie a month, and then you got a movie like Batman, and then you know, the Marvels, if they're coming out the same month, it's like it's going to harm both of those movies. I don't think it's going to do either one of them any good. So I think It helps with spacing out, a lot more, guaranteeing like people actually go to see the movies. And then also, the biggest thing that we constantly bring up, it gives your CG, visual effects artists a lot more time to actually work on their projects, and so they're not like, trying to finish things up till the last minute. The other thing I kind of wanted to bring up, because I didn't think of this until like as we were reading it, but like when we had like a bunch of Marvel movies and TV shows coming out all at once, that was a big reason, because there was like a big demand for that, because we had just gotten out of a pandemic and there was barely any Marvel content. So we were like, give it all to us. And so they did. So I think there was like a period of time where we were fed so much because we hadn't had any Marvel for so long. But now that we have our Marvel back, I think it's safe to say, okay, we're full, not that we don't want to eat anymore, but it just, we're a little full. So just, give us some time before you serve us our next meal, basically.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think the pandemic really changed the shift of people's priorities in these production companies, right? Really making a push for streaming, because we were all at home. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. But now that, even though I think to a certain extent the pandemic is certainly still here, maybe still on a much in a different period where you can handle it a little bit better, and people are actually going back out to the theaters and stuff. Now it's like changing again right before our very eyes, right? And I think that's something that Bob Iger and Kevin Feige certainly are now noticing. So I'm at least pleased to see that they're making the necessary changes. It says you talk about embracing television and how that was a new territory for you. What were some of your biggest adjustments that came out of that? Because I guess the learnings have been that you are rewarded creatively and by the audience by going to unexpected places. We always knew to a certain extent it is fun to see. We want to do shows that can only be shows. He says, we want to do shows that can only be shows. I want to continue to make them even more episodic, which may seem counterintuitive, but I do think that there is something fun about leaning back and watching an episode that can be relatively self-contained. He said,
I thought about this with Captain Marvel, actually, or sorry, Miss Marvel. As much as I liked it, the way it was, a part of me really would have loved to have seen what it would have looked like if there were a couple of not necessarily filler episodes, but standalone episodes where it's just her going on a self-contained adventure as Miss Marvel. So if that's something they want to do like in the future, I'm all down. I'm all for.
He says, Lost was an incredibly influential show because it was this serialized story, which was not seen in television much. Now it's been, how long, 20 years? Since then, almost everything has become like that. So now, and I think you're seeing this not just with our shows, but with many other shows, you're starting to see the fun of a self-contained episodic story week to week. We're going to experiment with that in some of our upcoming things. He says, that's cool to hear. Nowadays, so many TV producers and showrunners like to pitch their shows as 8-hour movies. But I think you're right. There's something special about a really great self-contained episode of television. And Kevin Feige says, yes, I mean, cliffhangers are great. I like watching a show where you should go to bed, but you see the cliffhanger and you just have to watch the next episode. You certainly want to keep people engaged, but I'm a big Star Trek fan. And I still find it soothing to watch an episode of Next Gen with the beginning and an end. So I think we're going to keep experimenting with that going forward. This is bringing up the Star Trek topic. We literally just talked about this stuff at the beginning and the top of the episode.
Yeah. I think like the one big difference is that like, and this is why a lot of TV shows don't feel the need to do episodic stories anymore. It's because back then, it's all cable network and not everyone could keep up with it week after week. So they wanted it to be like you could watch any episode as a standalone story. But nowadays, since we got streaming services, everything is right then and right there. I think that's what kind of incentivizes people to make a continuous story, because people, if they can catch up with it anytime they want to.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Sorry, I just got a message from Indy. We'll see if he comes back, guys. We'll keep you posted. The Entertainment Weekly also asks him, so I'd like to run through some of the other Phase 5 projects. So this is where we start really diving into Phase 5, and he kind of gives us some updates on them. They do say, let's start with the Marvels, which you've already mentioned. Can you tell us about the dynamic between the three ladies here? So we got Carol, Kamala, and Monica. And he says, that's what the entire movie is about. There are fun cosmic elements to it. Marvel comic fans will recognize elements of the Kree Skrull War, and it's picking up directly after the end of Captain Marvel 1. Not in timeline, but in story. We also do that in our upcoming series, Secret Invasion, and those are two very different follow-ups to that movie. Tonally, they couldn't be more different, but there's something immensely powerful about seeing Monica and Kamala and Carol together in a frame. To me, it's only akin to the first Avengers movie and seeing the six of them together in a frame. It's chill-inducing. So they're so great together, and they have different histories with one another. A great thing about Kamala in her show and now in this movie is that she's not unlike Tom Holland's Peter Parker in Civil War. She can't believe she's with these heroes and can't believe that she finds herself in this place. And that's fun because we want to be that. I want to be that, which is so Stuart. We literally just talked about this when we talked about the poster here.
Mhm.
And it feels like everything Kevin Feige is saying in regards to what will make this movie great is like the same things that we've been really hoping forward to seeing what this movie was going to be about, or at least the idea of seeing all three of these women on screen together, not only their stories and how they connect with one another, but just what their personalities are going to be like, right? And we just boasted about her kind of being that Tom Holland sort of not only level of actor, but what she certainly brings to the character. And you even mentioned the idea of seeing her possibly fangirl from time to time. And it seems like we're definitely going to have some moments like that also. So this is kind of just screaming exactly what we kind of want to see in this film.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's like Feige just kind of like says the exact. It's like he almost can look into my brain and knows exactly what I want to hear from him.
Yeah, it's like he's got a pulse on what the fans like, that's for sure.
Mhm.
He says you also got the 2024 Captain America New World Order. With Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford is joining the fold as Thaddeus Ross. What can you tell us about his take on the character? He says we start filming relatively soon. I'm sure anyone who's you've ever talked about Harrison Ford says this, but it's unbelievable that we get to meet and talk with him and that he's embracing this role. He's tireless with the amount of work that he does. There is certainly a big part for Thaddeus Ross. He's the president of the United States in this film. And with Harrison, you think about Air Force One, and you think about some of his other confrontations with the president in Clear and Present Danger. There's a dynamic between President Ross and Sam Wilson. They have a history together, but in this film, we'll be seeing the dynamic between Captain America and the presidents of the United States in a way that is just incredible. He says, this has been a dream for years, ever since Jon Favreau cast Harrison Ford in Cowboys and Aliens. I was always very jealous of that. So to have him finally in the MCU is just incredible. It's like I can cross that off the wish list. So I didn't know Kevin Feige had a dream of working with Harrison Ford one day, but now he's got him not only as Thaddeus Ross, but as president of the United States. What do you think that dynamic is going to be like with our new Captain America and our new president? That's trippy to hear to say, man.
Oh man, just assuming that he's going to play it the exact same way that he's been or that the previous actor played it in Civil War and in the Incredible Hulk. I can tell you right now, Captain America is not going to get along with our president, and he is undoubtedly going to be probably the big antagonist. Even if he's not the villain, he's definitely going to be an antagonist in this movie for sure. Yeah, I really look forward to seeing how much of an obstacle he ends up being for Captain America. And, because, while Ross isn't a good person per se, I wouldn't call him evil. So I'd be interested to see if there's like redemption for him at some point during this. But what do you think? Do you think he's going to be more of an antagonist, or do you think he's going to actually be helpful to Captain America? I'm kind of curious.
No, antagonist.
Antagonist. You think so too? Yeah.
Yeah, Harrison Ford. Yeah, I think he's gonna be an antagonist for sure. And I've loved seeing him as president of the United States before. I think this is a great casting choice, man. And I got to give props to Harrison Ford for somebody who's that much older but still willing to have fun and experiment in different genres at this age. I think is pretty incredible, to say the least.
For sure.
Oh, and it's funny, Stuart, and I feel bad for this, but I can't remember what show I was watching, but they were getting ready to interview Anthony Mackie, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and coming up, we've got an interview with Captain America himself." And I'm like, "Oh, Chris Evans is on the show." And then they're like, they're like Anthony Mackie. I'm like, "Oh shit, that's right." Oh god, yeah, it's definitely gonna take some getting used to. But I did love Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I do think Sam Wilson's gonna make a great Captain America.
Same.
It also says Thunderbolts is also in the works for 2024 with a bunch of familiar faces. He says that's another one. We got a lot of things that start shooting relatively soon. What's fun about that, and sort of said this in D23, is that they are barely heroes. None of them would consider themselves heroes. When your de facto leader is Bucky Barnes, that's sort of all you need to know. That's the trickle down. But again, it goes to the amazing work that Sarah Finn, the casting director, has done with the whole MCU. We've got David Harbour and Florence Pugh, and these people who are at the top of their game and popping up in everything they're doing. They're already here and established in the MCU, and we get to build the movie around them. So I don't necessarily know if I knew that Bucky Barnes was going to be their de facto leader, but I'm glad for the clarification there.
I am very curious because, you know, if we're going by the comic books, I assume that whatever missions they're going to be getting sent on isn't exactly going to be like a morally good mission. So I'm very curious how they convince Bucky not only to go on this mission, but also to lead this mission, whether or not they threaten people he loves, or if they just like offer him like this ultimate chance of redemption that like he just can't turn down. I'm really curious to see how that turns out.
Yeah, because I'm sure once he sees that lineup and just the shady ass characters, he's got to be asking himself some questions like,
Yeah.
what is this team? What do you guys got us doing? They also say you got the Blade movie with Mahershala Ali for next year. How's that going? I love that this is like the shortest answer that he's given for anything, and he says it's going well. Our director Jan Demange is down in Atlanta right now. Cameras roll in like the next 10 weeks. And Stuart, I gotta be honest with you. When this is the least amount that he talks about a movie, and we already know the idea that this movie has gone through hell in regards to not only trying to get a script, but also a director. And then he comes out and says, "Oh, by the way, it's filming in 10 weeks." What? Do you have the there is a sense of worry that I have now all of a sudden. Like, how good is this movie? I feel like this has been like either pushed through in secret, that's getting ready to go ahead and be in films in front of the camera before we know it. And I'm just like, I'm starting to have my worries, bro. What about you?
Not gonna lie, I'm up there with you. Like, this was actually a movie that when they first started talking about it, I thought they were really gonna give this like, you know, a really good treatment because it sounded like they were really taking it seriously and that kind of stuff. But everything I've been hearing since then, especially from the director, hearing that he just like didn't want to work on the movie because he didn't like the script at all. Things like that really shocked me. And now I'm not, it's not that I'm not going to see it. Obviously I'm definitely going to see it. You put Marvel name on anything, I'll go watch it. But I definitely don't have the hype that I originally had when they first announced it with Mahershala Ali as the main character. So we'll see though.
Yeah, man, my hype definitely is not there as much as it used to be. And I'm kind of curious about how Mahershala Ali feels now, currently, about this Blade movie, if he's as excited as he certainly was before himself. But yeah, there's definitely some concern for sure.
If we hear about a sudden recast, we'll know why.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You mentioned Tom Holland's Peter Parker. No Way Home was such a big hit. I know Marvel Studios has a deal with Sony regarding the character. Do you have any updates on when we might see Peter Parker again? All I will say is that we have the story. We have big ideas for that, and our writers are just putting pen to paper now. So it seems as though Spider-Man 4 is currently having its script written. So that's or being written. So that's exciting to see. He says also you brought Charlie Cox back as Daredevil, and now he's getting his own show on Disney Plus. What can you tell us about how this show fits into the MCU? He says it's Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and they're amazing actors and storytellers in their own right. That's sort of what I was talking about with the fun of episodic television. That's really where we're experimenting with that, with Daredevil in particular.
That makes a lot of sense because they mentioned that was going to have 18 episodes. And yeah, if you're trying to tell one story for 18 episodes, I feel like that would just get very tiring. So that's, yeah, I think Daredevil's a perfect character to test, dip your toe in the water with.
Yeah, because I remember when they mentioned 18 episodes, we were like, what? Like 18 episodes? You're going full like CW episode run. Like, what is happening right now? But the fact that it seems like that they are going that episodic formula, that there will be sort of a beginning and an end to some of these episodes, just, one episode full contained storyline. I kind of dig that. I wouldn't mind seeing like an episode that's maybe just a court drama for Matt Murdock, or he winds up having to solve and find out a crime and solve it by the end of the episode type of thing. I think it would be really fun and a cool dynamic, certainly separated from what we wind up getting from the Netflix era. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real.
And he says, are there any other projects we didn't talk about that you're excited for? He says the only other one in terms for me personally is Fantastic Four. He says, we sort of talked about mutants and the whole aspect of the Marvel world, but Fantastic Four is a foundation for everything that came after in the comics. There's certainly been versions of it on screen, but never exhibiting the storytelling of the MCU. And that's something that we're really excited for us. People will start to hear more about that soon. We plan on that being a big pillar of the MCU going forward, just the way they've been in the comics for 50 or 60 years. So yeah, it looks like the Fantastic Four will in fact be playing a massive role in the MCU, certainly going forward. Maybe they'll end up being sort of like even bigger than the Avengers team, right? Like it almost feels like maybe the Avengers may not carry the MCU so much when we get like past of phase 6. Maybe the main story will really kind of focus around the Fantastic Four and the other heroes within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because there were even rumors I was hearing that maybe Galactus might be the big bad for sort of the next saga or something like that. But that was just a rumor that I heard.
Hey, if that's the route they want to go, Fantastic Four is the perfect way to set them up.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, guys, now that you've gotten some updates in regards to Kevin Feige and the MCU for Phase 5, let us know some of your thoughts. How do you like the sound of it? Do you feel like Kevin Feige's back in his bag? He understands what we certainly want as fans. And personally for me, Stuart, I think the takeaway that I get from here is not only does he know what the fans want, but I always appreciate anybody that's able to kind of look inward and look at the problems that certainly might be there, maybe listening to some of the fans and course correcting certainly when needed. But the one thing that I will always continue to say, I appreciate just the diversity that they wind up bringing, not just racially or sexuality or anything like that, but just storytelling wise. The fact that, whether or not you were fans of some of these MCU shows or not, I do love just how different a lot of these series certainly feel to themselves. And in return, I think they've established some really great characters. Regardless how you feel about the series, I think the characters themselves have definitely been great standouts. And I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot more of them, honestly. So I really appreciated this update.
Yeah, I would totally agree there too. Like, you hear people talking about the Marvel formula and how they're all like exactly the same. And while I disagree with that, I can see where they're coming from on certain, aspects of the MCU for sure. But if someone tries to claim that with the Marvel television shows that they're all the same, I'm just going to be like, you clearly haven't watched any of them at all. If that's actually your take with the Marvel TV shows, that's one thing I've been really enjoying about them is they're all so different from each other, not just in terms of tone, but, in terms of like the stakes and the type of stories that they're trying to tell. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes, guys. A rocky start for this saga when it comes to Phase 4, but again, very much introductory. But hopefully Phase 5 will definitely bring it all together. So let us know your thoughts in regards to what Kevin Feige had to say in the comment section box below after this video drops. And with that out of the way, Stuart, we will move on to our next topic, guys. And we're really going to be continuing to stay in regards to in this world of MCU. And even dabble into some Star Wars a little bit here, as we just kind of mentioned in a previous article that times are definitely changing, right? Strategies for a lot of these streaming services certainly are changing in a big way, especially when it comes to Disney. Maybe taking more of a focus on quality over quantity, along with the idea of also pushing forward into the theatrical world a little bit more, and maybe pulling back on the gas when it comes to their streaming services as they really kind of navigate the new changes that are certainly happening in this world. And so, Stuart, the next article that we're going to talk about here comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, as it gives us a little bit more insight in regards to truly what the plan is for not only Marvel, but also Star Wars. The Hollywood Reporter asked the question, how much is too much Marvel and Star Wars? Disney rethinks its franchise output. And this kind of goes back, and I think of this article as the sequel to the Bob Iger article that we talked about last week. It says, following Bob Iger's February 8th comments that the company needs to be better at curating franchise content that's extraordinarily expensive. Bob Iger also added, "We want the quality on the screen, but we have to look at what they cost us." It says Marvel is Disney's most important supplier of product, the subsidiary with the highest output, and under Iger's directive, it could feel cuts the soonest. He says there's going to be a level of rigor on Marvel and across the entire company. Numbers matter now, and costs are going to be outlined and enforced. So I think when Kevin Feige just mentions the idea of not just spacing of the shows, but the output of the shows, I think that definitely comes in the sense of numbers matter now, right? And costs are going to be outlined and enforced. Is that kind of what you're getting from this too, Stuart?
Yes.
It says in what feels like a different timeline ago, San Diego Comic-Con's Kevin Feige put the pedal to the metal when he outlined 5 Disney Plus shows for 2023. Oh my God. It says now sources tell the Hollywood Reporter that Loki season 2 and Secret Invasion are the only sure bets to debut this year. Even with projects that wrapped months ago, such as the Hawkeye spinoff Echo and the Wakanda Forever spinoff Ironheart, are unlikely to arrive in 2023 as the studio spreads out its content and tinkers in post-production. And shows in development, such as Nova, are now on a slower path. So things that haven't necessarily gotten into production yet, they're definitely going to be taking their sweet time in regards to putting it together. That probably allows them just economically or financially to be able to put money towards other things for right now, until they definitely have the proper and the correct sort of script for a lot of these shows. Again, focusing on the quality and not so much the quantity of this stuff. So yeah, it looks like 2023 was supposed to have What If season 2, Echo, Loki season 2, Agatha and the Coven of Chaos, and Ironheart. And now the only 2 that we will probably be getting this year is Loki and Secret Invasion, as Ironheart and Echo get pushed off. It does say, as a point of comparison, during Phase 4, Marvel released a breakneck 18 projects 18 projects across theatrical and streaming. 4 films and 5 TV shows in 2021, 3 films and 3 TV shows in 2022, plus a few specials. The studio released just 11 projects from Phase 3, which ran from 2016 and 2019. So in 3 years, Marvel put out 11 projects for Phase 3. Whereas there have been 18 projects for Phase 4 within 2 years, Stuart. That's ridiculous. 4 films, 5 TV shows in 2021, 3 films, 3 TV shows in 2022, and we also had those 2, the Halloween special and the Christmas special. So it says, Kevin Feige echoed the new direction. The pace at which we're putting out the DC shows will change. So I think we can understand why now, right?
Oh, for sure, for
That's a lot of
sure.
content.
Yeah, I think slowing down on it and working, more on quality instead of quantity. Although, not saying that they didn't have quality before, but I think this is a very smart move on their part. Plus, it also frees up a lot of space on Disney Plus for, other big projects as well. It's like really funny because I didn't think about it like as it was happening, but but looking back on it, yeah, it is definitely insane the amount of Marvel shows and movies that we've gotten in the last 2 years, especially when comparing it to 2020, where we were all like craving that Marvel content because we hadn't had it like that entire year.
Yeah, it's almost like Resnov Flavor says we were good with 2 to 3 films a year. Then Marvel went nuts. Yeah, I think we knew that there were going to be an increase in content, but I don't think we expected the explosion of content that we're certainly getting. So yeah, but I guess again, when you have the pandemic hit, right, and the focus is streaming and everybody's going to be at home, it's like, hey, we gotta produce content for this streaming service. So let's keep pushing it out. But things are changing now. Things are very much changing. It says Star Wars is facing the opposite challenge. After being absent from the big screen since 2019 and having false starts with Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron, which may never materialize, Disney has ramped up its efforts to return the franchise to theater. Damon Lindelof led a writer's room in July to hash out a story for a feature, and Taika Waititi is still developing his own take on the franchise. Disney is expecting to unveil film plans at Star Wars Celebration set for April in London. On top of season 3 of Mandalorian, shows expected to hit the streaming service this year include Ahsoka, along with John Watts' Skeleton Crew. Lucasfilm may ramp up, but it will have to abide by the same fiscal discipline as the rest of the company, says the insider. And so I do think that go ahead, sir.
I was just gonna say I love the wording there. After after having false starts, as if it's like a football game. False start, Star Wars, 10-yard penalty.
10-yard penalty. But I think it's right. I mean, look, we have 3 shows that are certainly dropping this year, all of which I'm looking forward to. Ahsoka, Mandalorian season 3, and Skeleton Crew are set to go ahead and drop. But I think people are ready for a Star Wars movie, and I think Bob Iger is ready for a Star Wars movie because he's like, I need to make $1 billion again. I need another movie that I know is going to guarantee me $1 billion, and Star Wars is definitely one of those franchises that can pull that trigger for you. And so the fact that we do have, I'm assuming we have a Damon Lindelof movie that might be announced at Star Wars Celebration. There's a part of me that also wonders if Bob Iger's putting pressure on them to maybe announce another movie. I have no idea overall what's in the works over at Lucasfilm, but the only thing I would say is please don't make any announcements on movies unless the script is ready to go, you've got a writer and director on board, and casting is going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to know that you're ready to get in front of the film, in front of the camera, and you've got everything else sort of situated for yourself before you even make an announcement or promise me anything. So if Damon Lindelof and whoever he's working with comes out on stage for Star Wars Celebration, please tell me you got the script ready, cameras are getting ready to roll in 2 months, just something. I need something concrete. But it does seem as though on the TV side, Star Wars is in a pretty good spot right now. But I am expecting some big announcements from Star Wars Celebration here. Maybe 1 or 2 other movies outside of what Damon Lindelof's working on, and maybe some 1 or 2 other titles for Star Wars TV that we can expect in 2024 is what I'm hoping. What do you think we're going to get from Star Wars Celebration?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's going to be kind of the same, unannounced Star Wars project. So it's going to be a lot of nothing, a lot of, this movie, we're planning a Star Wars movie for this year, and then the Star Wars movie for this year. They may announce who's directing it, but I think that's going to be as far as it goes. We're not going to know whether or not it's part of a trilogy. We're not going to, and I say that just because every time they've been announcing a Star Wars movie, that's what it's been. It's been a very, very vague idea of what this Star Wars movie might be about, and then that's it. They don't give you a timeline. They don't give you an idea of whether or not it's going to have any sequels to it, or whether they're trying to make a franchise out of it. It's just, oh, we might be making a Star Wars movie this year. So when it comes to the movies, I'm trying not to get my hopes too high up currently. I hope that changes over time, but like for now, I'm just kind of going in with mid expectations. But when it comes to the TV side of things, you know, I'm excited to see what they announce, and I hope they kind of give us a bigger idea of what we can expect going forward with both Ahsoka and Rogue One season 2.
Yeah, I hope that we get I I do hope that we get maybe some footage. I hope we get some footage for both Ahsoka and maybe Skeleton Crew. I hope that they announce maybe a release date for the Acolyte. Um I don't think I'm not expecting them to show me anything for the Acolyte, but maybe if I can get at least a small synopsis, maybe a release date for that season, that'd be great. And maybe one or two other TV projects for Disney that maybe might be in the works, but we'll see how it turns out. It does say observers are calling it a massive correction from only a few years ago when the entertainment industry was hell bent on giving consumers endless amounts to watch and spending endlessly in doing so. They say you can have 10 mediocre shows or you can have 5 great shows, says one agency partner whose client works on the franchise's plans. People will stay on Disney Plus. And I think he's right. I think if you can knock out, because that's what it feels like, Stuart. It's like, I feel like we've gotten 10 mediocre shows and movies from the MCU, and we've kind of like missed on the idea of like, no, just give me 5 great shows. You know what I mean? So I think that's where maybe some of the watered down comes into play. But that goes for Marvel, Star Wars, and any other franchise that's under the Disney banner. You know what I mean? So it looks like they definitely have a massive correction, as they mentioned it, certainly happening at the House of the Mouse for sure.
Despite you know, don't get me wrong, again, like I mentioned, I really enjoy all the Marvel TV shows out there,
Yeah,
but
I
despite
enjoy a
their
lot of them.
budget, despite you know, everything they have going for them, I don't think any of them have topped Daredevil for me yet. You know, that's still my favorite
Mm.
Marvel TV show out there, and that was one that didn't have the giant, you know, MCU budget.
Yeah, absolutely. So they definitely a learning curve. But the things are definitely changing behind the scenes when it comes to the MCU and Lucasfilm. So let us know your thoughts, guys. When it comes to Star Wars Celebration, what sort of content would you guys like to certainly see revealed at Star Wars Celebration for Lucasfilm? So definitely go ahead and let me know your thoughts. Ever feel like Marvel is losing their touch? You know, I don't feel like Marvel is losing their touch. I feel like I'm at least I'm hoping that phase 5 and 6 will really sort of right the ship a little bit, because I do think that they can still hit that great level of storytelling. But I will say, I mean, I do think that phase 4 has definitely been a hiccup for them. But I mean, look, I mean, it's one of those things too, Stuart, where it's like, are we grading them unfairly? And what I say by that is like, when you've got Infinity War and Endgame to go ahead and round out the Infinity Saga, I mean, they managed to do something in cinematic history that's like never been done before. And you want to talk about wrapping it up on literally like the highest peak you could possibly imagine so far. You know, what comes after that, right? Like, is it fair for us, for us at least when it comes to phase 4, to make them live up to that same expectation of what they just finished wrapping up for us? So I don't know. I don't know. Do you think we're treating them unfairly or asking for too much? Or do you think, I don't know, maybe it could be both though, Stuart, right? Maybe it could be a combination of both.
I think it could be a combination of both. I think you know, I hate to use this term, but I think Marvel fatigue is also a huge possibility out there because so I watched this review recently actually of the Flash basically, and talking about what made it go downhill. And I think one of the issues is that season 1 and 2 of the Flash were so great because they did every cool thing that you would have loved to have seen them do with the Flash. And unfortunately, it becomes like, once you do all that, what is there left to do? And I think that's the big thing with Marvel, is that, you know, we're getting more of the same stuff that we really like, but it's so hard for them to give us something new with that, because they've already kind of like hit every thing on the checklist at this point. So, while I personally still think a lot of the Marvel movies we've gotten are still really good. Like I freaking love Shang-Chi. I thought Wakanda Forever was great. And then I didn't think Eternals was anywhere near as bad as what people are saying. All right. I don't care what people say. I thought Eternals was great. All that to be said, I don't think any of them have really given us anything that mind-blowing as it was like, when we saw Endgame. I think they got close with Spider-Man No Way Home, but that's about it. It's all been kind of like the same thing we've been used to for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I do think it's probably a balance between the two in the sense that we do have high expectations. There's a part of me that's like, man, can Marvel live up to those expectations? But maybe in their process of trying to do so, they decide, hey, let's just put out a bunch of new content, new characters, and maybe they kind of shot themselves a little bit sort of in the foot. But listen, if there's anybody that I trust, it's Kevin Feige, and I think just hearing some of what he said in these past couple of articles and these interviews certainly makes me trust him that the flair and what we love about the MCU will certainly return as of right now. When you're at the peak and people love everything you do, sometimes people will say the only place for you to go is down, and people start being more critical of you, right? Start shitting on you just a little bit more because you've achieved so much success in your life. And so maybe there's a little bit of that certainly going around also, as a lot of people are getting hyped and intrigued to see what the DCU could certainly do. But I do think that there's plenty of room out there for the MCU to continue to improve. And Kevin Feige makes comments that shows me that they're listening and they're taking the necessary steps. So we'll see how the rest of Phase 5 and 6 certainly goes. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on the big changes that are happening over at Marvel as well as Lucasfilm in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, we will go ahead and dive a little bit into, oops, no, I don't want to leave this. We will go ahead and dive a little bit more into some movie news for you guys today, as there is a franchise that is returning, Stuart, that I did not expect we would be seeing for quite some time. Hellboy is back in the news, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. You guys might have remembered that 2019 Hellboy movie, or maybe you forgot about it and wanted to erase it from your memory. But it did not do so well. The David Harbour-led Hellboy movie unfortunately bombed at the box office. I personally never got the opportunity to check it out myself, Stuart. So I do kind of want to go back because I've heard good things about David Harbour as Hellboy, despite the movie itself not doing well whatsoever. And it seems as though this franchise has had a hard time after the first Guillermo del Toro film that we wound up getting years ago of really finding its footing and finding exactly what type of movie it certainly wants to be. And so because of its struggle, because of the box office flop that we wind up getting a couple of years ago, I honestly thought nobody was going to go ahead and tackle this franchise, or at least wait a little bit longer. But Stuart, they're giving it another shot. They feel that there is plenty of more Hellboy stories to certainly go. And let's have a good time talking about this topic and see if this is a smart move. But it seems as though they are a lot further along with this particular film than I even anticipated. But this comes to us from Deadline.com. Hellboy, the Crooked Man. Plot and production details revealed by Millennium. Reboot to be a departure and first in a new series of films. So this is an exclusive. It says Millennium Media has revealed plot and production details about the upcoming Hellboy reboot. Some aspects of the reboot, which have been in the works for a while, were covered online earlier this week by the website Discussing Film. Now we have the official confirmation and more detail. Brian Taylor, who directed Crank, will be directing the new film. Can you bring up Brian Taylor's work, Stuart? Whose title is confirmed to be Hellboy the Crooked Man, with production starting next month in Bulgaria. So they're getting ready to be in front of the cameras next month. It says conversations with the cast are in their late stages. So it seems as though they probably already have a lot of people already on board and maybe just having to sign some final paperwork and contracts. It says, crucially for fans and for the first time in the franchise, Mike Mignola, The creator of the comics has penned the script alongside his Dark Horse Comics collaborator Chris Golden. The story will expand Hellboy's world through one of the most beloved issues of the comic book series. So I do find that interesting, Stuart, that Mike Mignola, the writer for the series itself, is actually penning the script this time around. It says the new film will see Hellboy and a rookie BPRD agent stranded in 1950s rural Appalachia. There, they discover a small community haunted by witches, led by a local devil with the troubling connection to Hellboy's past, the Crooked Man. It says in the comics, the Crooked Man was an 18th century miser and war profiteer named Jeremiah Wickens, who was hanged for his crimes, yet returned from hell as the region's resident devil. It says it is a departure from all previous Hellboy films where Mike Mignola and the creator of the comics will finally shepherd an authentic version of his stories and characters in film form. This is the first time in the series of films that will captivate audiences in familiar and new ways. Brian Taylor is an expert across the board, and I couldn't think of a better person to bring the story to life to show our audience this different and original Hellboy slate of films. So they're really talking about the idea of expanding this into even more than just one movie here, but they seem pretty confident in at least the release here for the information that we wind up having. So let me start off with you, Stuart. What do you think about this news? The idea of the comic book writer writing the series, them taking another stab at it, them being this far in production. Are you worried? Are you concerned? Good idea, bad idea? Let's get a rundown of your thoughts.
So I think this is a big gamble. I'm going to say that because, so for one, they got a comic book writer working on this, and looking at his IMDb page, it seems that like he may have had some input when it comes to the previous Hellboy movies, along with other movies that have come out, like based on his work. He gets like some creative input, but he hasn't, as far as I know, he hasn't worked on a full length movie script before. So you got that, and then on top of that, you have a director who, looking at his IMDb page, he has only directed a short film, and this is going to be his first full-length feature. Most of his stuff he's mostly a writer. Looking at his IMDb page, there's only 2 things he's worked on that I've seen. Because I haven't seen any of the Crank movies. I haven't seen Pathology, and I haven't seen Mom and Dad. But what I have seen was Jonah Hex, which was not a good movie. And then I've also seen Happy, the TV show, which I've seen the first season. I haven't seen anything beyond that, but I freaking loved Happy. That show is, if you guys haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It is one of the most bizarre, like, dark detective shows I've ever seen. It's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit meets Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It is the most bizarre, but with like an R rating though. So it's the most bizarre combo, but it works. So that all being said, I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. But I would say just because you have a couple of people working outside their comfort zone to make this movie, it's definitely a gamble. And you rarely see a studio spending this much money on a gamble like this, especially for a franchise whose previous outing didn't do that well at the box office. Like Hellboy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think wasn't the previous Hellboy movie like a flop, I believe?
Yeah, it was. I'll pull up the box office mojo for Hellboy. The budget was $50 million, so actually not a bad budget, but the movie itself only made $55 million. So yeah, it barely made back its production costs, let alone So yeah, it was terrible.
For this one, I think you can partially blame Ron Perlman, because I think he just like went out and said, yeah, I'm never putting that makeup on again. Which, I mean, I don't blame him, because I imagine like the amount of like latex and layers that they have to put on him. I imagine you have to like sit in a chair for like probably 6 to 8 hours. I don't blame him for not wanting to do that anymore.
Yeah, neither do I. If anything, I will say, let me go ahead and see if I can pull this back up here again. Um, what is it that Marcelino said? He said something about they should at least have Guillermo del Toro return to finish off his trilogy. I think he wanted to certainly finish off his trilogy, but I think he was trying to make like $100 or $200 million movie. And Hellboy's just never made that type of money back. Maybe where Guillermo del Toro is now in his career, now that he's won so many Academy Awards, he's a much even bigger name than he was when he made the first two Hellboy movies. Maybe that'll certainly draw more audiences to the box office. But a Hellboy movie I will say Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, did make $168 million on an $85 million budget. So that movie actually might have broken even or come pretty close. But that's the only Hellboy movie that's ever crossed um, what do you call it? The $100 million mark. Budget wise. So I will say this: when it comes to this particular film, I think this is a gamble too, Stuart. I really do. It is one of those things where I am curious as to whether or not the audience can forget about the get that terrible taste out of their mouths that they just had from the last Hellboy movie. I mean, like, we're talking what 3-4 years separated from the last time we got a Hellboy film that didn't do too well. But it's one of those things where it's like I still believe in this franchise. I do think that there's a world that we live in where Hellboy as an IP is a great IP. I think you've got some great stories from the comic books that certainly could still be told. I think you just have to really find a good fixture of director and writer on board to certainly make this work. We've had none of these films have been made for over $100 million. So I think that's a good thing. I think if anything, we should continue to keep the budget relatively low on these, especially if you're looking to make some sort of profit off of them. So I do think that's key. Low budget. But it is risky bringing in Mike Mignola, but it is one of those things where it's like, hey, we've taken stabs at this so far, and other writers just haven't been able to bring Hellboy to life the way that he deserves. So why not bring in Mike to give it a shot? Like, what else do you have to lose at this point? You just had a flop on your hands. If you're going to try and resuscitate Hellboy, at least allow it to be the man that created the comic book series into as big of a IP as it certainly has become. So I do think we live in a world where Hellboy movies can certainly still be done. My biggest fear is this a little too soon? I get the idea that they're very eager to have a successful Hellboy movie. But if people see, oh, Hellboy's back in the theater, and they just remembered 3-4 years ago watching a piss poor awful Hellboy movie, should I spend my money to go ahead and see this one? I'm a little worried in that regards. But I will say this, Stuart, I do this is one I probably will check out. Maybe I'll see what the trailers are certainly looking like. I'm crossing my fingers because I do want Hellboy to be a successful franchise. Whether or not they bring in, I was going to say they bring in Guillermo del Toro, but they already have themselves a director on board. We'll see if they're going to be the key ingredient to making this franchise successful again. But yeah, like you, I am a little worried. I am a little concerned about it.
Yeah, and it might honestly be one of those things where the studio has to make a Hellboy movie every 5 or 6 years, or
before they lose the rights.
Exactly. So that might be why they're doing it. And that's also probably why they're willing to take a big gambles, because the last time I think, they kind of played it safe, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they basically kind of, gave it like a bit of a Marvel formula. And by Marvel formula, I'm talking about, the typical hero's journey, but also like with mixing in the good amount of like, humor in there. And I don't think it worked as well as they wanted it to, because, when fans see Hellboy, they don't want like, they want a little humor, but I think they also really want like kind of a darker tone. And I'm wondering if that's going to be where they take the franchise now that they realize that the previous like way they tried to do it didn't work. So now, might as well try something completely new and see how that works.
Did you see the recent one with David Harbour?
No, I actually never did. It's funny because I was like kind of looking forward to it when they announced it. I also thought like David Harbour was like the perfect choice
Hmm.
to play
And
Hellboy.
I heard he was great in
Um,
a role.
oh, okay, that's good to know. But yeah, the trailer just really lost me, honestly. I think that's what kind of made me like completely uninterested is like the moment I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, this isn't like what I expected.
Yeah, so we'll see how it turns out, guys. But let me know your guys' thoughts. Do you think the idea of a Hellboy movie is a good call after the recent flop that we wind up having back in 2019? Are you open to the idea of checking out another Hellboy movie in theaters? And do you feel that there's enough meat on the bone yet for this to still be a successful franchise? Let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below.
I
Who
wouldn't
do you
mind
fan cast as Hellboy? Who
I
do you got
wouldn't
somebody in
mind
mind?
Josh Brolin, in the role.
I mean, he does have that mean mug for sure. He might be able to pull that off too, for sure. He'll definitely get into a Hellboy shape for the role, also. I'm sure.
Do you have someone in mind?
No, not really. I haven't really given it too much thought off the top of my head. He says I personally cast Rory McCain and Carl Urban. Carl
Hmm.
Urban, maybe. Who's Rory McCain? McCain.
Let me double check.
Oh, he might make a go from Game of Thrones. Um, I love. Oh yeah, that'd be. I think that'd be pretty interesting. I would be. I probably would. Probably he'd probably be my first choice over someone like Carl
Oh, okay.
Urban.
Yes, yes. Actually, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty cool one. All right, guys, let us know who your Hellboy would certainly be. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, I think we will move on to our next topic as we dive more into movies. Listen, guys, when it comes to animated films, How to Train Your Dragon for me was some of my best sort of animated trilogies that we've gotten out there. I was a big fan of the first film, really enjoyed, or I should say, enjoyed the second film. Unfortunately, I personally have not had the opportunity to check out the third film as of yet. It's something I definitely want to check out for sure, but was a really big fan of the first two and thought that they made great animated films. I think they actually might even have been nominated for Oscars, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they necessarily won, but they were that good to the point to where they were nominated, I believe.
The
Were they,
second one was definitely nominated for an Oscar, and I remember this because it lost to Big Hero 6, and I was really annoyed by that.
Yeah, I just watched Big Hero 6 again, like back in December, I think. It was playing at the took our son to the doctors, and they had us waiting so goddamn long. I literally went through the whole entire movie of Big Hero 6 during our visit at the doctor's office of them coming in and out. But yeah, I gotta say I still liked How to Train Your Dragon better. So yeah.
Mhm.
Even though, believe it or not, while How to Train Your Dragon, I believe, dropped in 2010, the last iteration for that movie came out just a few years ago. I don't think it was very long ago when we got the final one, but it feels like it's 2019 was the last time that we had a How to Train Your Dragon movie. And so while some of you guys might think, hey, are we getting ourselves another animated How to Train Your Dragon? Nope. But we are getting ourselves a live action How to Train Your Dragon, as it seems as though Universal and them are trying to take a page out of Disney's book and doing live action remakes of some of their animated stuff. So let's dive into this. Um, from the Hollywood Reporter, How to Train Your Dragon live action movie in the works from Dean DeBlois and Universal. I probably just completely butchered his last name. I apologize. It says the Dragons and Vikings are taking to the skies once again, this time in live action. Taking a massive swing, Universal Pictures has put in motion a How to Train Your Dragon live action movie with Dean DeBois, the filmmaker behind the original animated trilogy, back in the saddle as writer, director, and producer. So the guy that literally did the entire trilogy now wants to go ahead and do it in live action. The feature project is already steps into development process. Universal has dated the feature. They already have a release date, March 14th, 2025. And the sources also say the casting process is already underway. So they're already making steps to this being a reality. It says the first movie released in 2010 earned Academy Award nominations for Best Animated Film and Best Score. The second and third notched Best Animated Film Oscar nominations. The trilogy was also a hit with audiences, grossing more than $1.6 billion at the box office as a trilogy. So quite successful franchise. It says the franchise is one of the crown jewels of DreamWorks Animation and spawned a television series also out of that. It does say here that Dubois wrote and directed the first movie with Chris Sanders and then took the reins solo for the 2014 and the 2019 outings. Dubois is making his live action debut as a director with the feature. Helping him make the transition will be veteran movie theater producer Mark Platt, whose credits range from Legally Blonde to La La Land to the upcoming adaptation of Wicked. One of the creative challenges facing the filmmakers is trying to find a balance of making the dragons appealing and friendly, like some were in the original movie, and realistic. It's hard to understate the size of the risk Universal is taking. On one level, the studio is journeying down a path already taken by Disney, which has made live action adaptations of its animated classics as a part of its slate. It's a strategy that yielded $1 billion for hits like Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. And there's a danger that the latter can tarnish the beloved nature of the classics or characters, although that can be hard to quantify. It's unclear whether, in success, Universal would seek to translate other DreamWorks animations into live action, such as Shrek or Poe, anyone. This is, however, the first time a live action remake is being overseen by the same creator as the animated source material. Stuart, I don't know if I want this, man. Look, I'm gonna give this a shot. Can I be honest? I just don't see the point, man. I just don't see the point. You know, these movies literally just came out. Like they're not even 20 years old yet. The first one came out 2010. That's just 13 years ago. This to me is milking. You know, what else can you do with the franchise? I don't know, make more animated films. I don't know. I just think the idea of adapting a trilogy that's not even 15 years old yet, is like you're just rehashing and recycling the movie just in live action form. You know, kudos to the guy coming back. Like, why would he want to come back and redo his movies? This just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm a huge fan of Hiccup and Toothless. I think they were great on screen together. I look at my dog, who's an all black lab and pit mix, and when I look at her, I think of Toothless all the time. So I have this connection with this movie because I've seen this movie so many freaking times, and I love it so much. You know, it's for me, it's one thing where Disney does it, because when they say it's a classic, right? Like these movies have not been in theaters in forever, in regards to their animated form. So the idea of making it for live action for a new generation makes absolute sense to me. This makes no sense to me. Give me 20 years, give me 25 years, give me 30 years, then give me a live action adaptation of these films. But it's like, if you're just if the same guy is literally adapting what he just made a couple years ago into live action, I'm just like, what's the difference? And I'm sure maybe there probably will be some differences, some things you can get away with in animation form that you can't when it comes to live action. But it's just one of those things that's like, I just don't get it, Stuart. This just feels way too soon. It feels like Universal is out of options. Like maybe financially they're just doing piss poor right now, and this is like their only solution in regards to try and make an easy buck and a quick buck, because that's just what it feels like to me. But maybe this is hitting me different than it hits you. Do you have confidence in this? Are you excited to kind of see what he adapts, or do you feel it's too soon? And what are your thoughts in regards to it?
So most of the times when it comes to live action adaptations of animated movies, I'm not necessarily excited for it, but I usually give it a shot, and most of the time I am very much let down. So you think that I wouldn't be looking forward to this, basically. However, I'm a sucker for fantasy, and I'm a sucker for dragons, and I'm a huge sucker for flying scenes when people are on dragons. And it looked great in How to Train Your Dragon, like the entire trilogy. Every flying scene they had was amazing. But that being said, that's also something that I've seen done really well in live action too. And to see something like that being translated to live action, I don't know, man. I think like this is one of those rare animated movies that I feel like can work really good in live action. Am I slightly worried? Like, I would say I'm very much like cautiously optimistic, because while I think there's a lot of potential with this project, I also, like I said, we've been burned before on this type of a thing. So it is very possible that this could be a soulless cash grab, like you're kind of predicting it's going to be. Very, very possible. But a part of me is really hoping that this ends up being like a passion project, especially if it's being, developed by the same guy who worked on the animated movies. Because when he worked on those movies, like those were definitely like things he was passionate about. They never felt like, when the sequel came out, and same with the third one, they never felt like phoned in movies. They felt like movies that were made with a lot of passion. And so I'm hoping that same amount of, heart goes into the live action movie. And I think, again, just the world that they built in the world of How to Train Your Dragon, I think it could translate really well to live action if done right. The biggest thing too that I think they could finally avoid is a lot of times in these live action Disney remakes, it's like they want to keep them so close to the original that it's like almost makes you wonder what's even the point. But then they end up changing small things that, you can kind of tell the writer or director, depending on whose decision this was, they thought these things were very small and not important, so it wouldn't matter if they changed it, not realizing that because these Disney animated movies are so short, every small detail kind of mattered. So to me, I always hated it when you would make a shot for shot remake, but then you would change those little details that would totally screw up like entire like character moments. Like the biggest one I bring up, of course, is the Aladdin. I think the way they went about introducing Aladdin's character in the live action movie totally screwed it. They totally screwed it up. They made him very unlikable compared to how he was in the animated movie. And it was almost like they just didn't get the point of why things were done the way they were done in the animated movie. And that would have been fine if they made the whole movie different, but they didn't. They kept everything exactly the same. So I feel like that's something they can finally avoid doing with a live action How to Train Your Dragon movie if it's the same guy working on it. I think if there are changes to the movies, there's going to be an actual purpose to the changes to tell the new type of story that they want to tell. All this to say that I am not as mad about this project as I see a lot of people online are about it. I, again, am going into this with, I'll be, cautiously optimistic. I'm not necessarily going to be surprised if it ends up being really bad, but there's a part of me that has like a little bit of hope for it. So we'll have to wait and see.
I wish I had your enthusiasm, man. I really do. I love your energy about this. But yeah, I just, and I usually never have a problem with the idea of people adapting animated stuff, like I get why Disney certainly does it. I mean, we are in the time period where it seems as though adapting animation into live action is the thing to do right now, right? People definitely go out to see it. But I guess for me, this will be the test of, are people going back to the Disney stuff because to see them adapt into live action, because not only are they classics, but they haven't been in the theaters in forever. And so it's a generational thing that people now come out to see these films. And is that something that Universal can capture with this? Or is it going to be this sense of it's not really a generational thing? The people that are seeing this movie probably already saw your trilogy. So who else are you really trying to capture to actually come to the theaters to actually see it? And so for me, it just makes me think like I would have waited 20 years, 25 years before pulling the trigger on this. I think Marcelino goes on to say, he says, if they want a live action dragon movie series, then redo Aragon. I mean, or finally adapt the Enchanted Forest Chronicles. I mean, and there's just so many other options out there to kind of go this route. And look, at the end of the day, if this doesn't succeed, look, I still have the animated series or the animated movies to fall back on. So I can't necessarily complain about that. My thing is if you're just going to spend this type of money to do something you just did 13 years ago, just put it towards something else, if you ask me. But I hope it's successful, Stuart. I truly do, because I don't want anything to really crap on this franchise or ruin it. So I do hope it's successful, but I am scratching my head over here. What do you think's the bigger risk? Hellboy or How to Train Your Dragon live action?
Oh, I don't think How to Train Your Dragon is going to be a risk at all. I think that even if this movie sucks, it's going to make a lot of money. I think it's got an IP that people really love.
Yeah.
You know, it's like with a lot of the Disney live action movies. I may not like them, but they're successful. There's a reason Disney hasn't stopped making them, despite the many people that are complaining about them. They're making Disney a lot of money, so it's like, why would they? So yeah, no, I wouldn't say this is a gamble at all.
Gotcha. All right, guys, let us know your thoughts. You hear this live action How to Train Your Dragon, the writer and director of the animated series coming back to go ahead, or animated trilogy coming back to go ahead and do this into live action adaptations. Are you excited for this? Are you scratching your head like myself, or are you on board like Stuart? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what's going to really piss me off, though? If they ever make like a live action Kung Fu Panda where they do like the photorealistic animals but it's all animated, but they still call it live action. That's going to be where I'm like, no, you got to stop this. All right. Lion King was not live action. This is not live action. Stop pretending photorealism is live action.
That's so funny. Yeah, absolutely. I remember hearing all that stuff all the time when that movie first dropped. All right, guys, with that out of the way, though, we will move into our next set of topics where we get into our Warner Brothers and DC bag before we get into your live viewer questions. We got two more topics. Let's see how we certainly go about these real quick for you guys today. The next topic that we're going to talk about is it looks as though we've got a new multi-film deal, or a first look deal for Warner Brothers that is certainly coming through. You guys might actually recognize this producer's name, Akiva Goldsman. He's been attached to several different DC projects over time. I think even maybe I don't know if he's been on, I guess he's also done some CW producing some of those shows also, Stuart, if I'm not mistaken. But Akiva Goldsman's a pretty big name, and it seems as though he just signed another deal here to continue working with Warner Brothers. And in this past weekend, discussing that new deal, he goes into big detail about some upcoming projects, that being the Constantine sequel, along with the sequel to I Am Legend, two movies that I was a big fan of and very eager to kind of see where those stories go. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart, as we have some details emerging in regards to what we can expect from some of these films. This is from Deadline.com. It says Akiva Goldsman's Weed Road in first look Warner Brothers deal focus is sequels of Constantine and I Am Legend with Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan. So he has signed a new multi-year deal. In the statement, co-chairs DeLuca and Abdi called Goldsman a consummate producer, a brilliant writer, and a kind of generous human being. We've both known and worked with Akiva for years and never ceased to be amazed by his combination of filmmaking, meddling, and and limitless imagination. We couldn't be more thrilled to work with him back to the Warner Brothers, welcome him back to the Warner Brothers family, where he has delivered some of the studio's most successful and acclaimed projects over the past 2 decades. Yeah, Akiva Goldsman's a huge, huge name in the industry. I mean, you could probably IMBD him and just see all the incredible films he's kind of been attached to, whether that be as producer or even as a writer himself. But yeah, he's got a lot under his belt. Wouldn't you say, Stuart?
Yeah, he's very smart about what he puts his name on. I'm even looking
Mhm.
at, it's funny, his first movie is one that I used to watch all the time as a little kid. But I found out later that apparently it was not very well received when it was originally out in theaters. But he did produce Lost in Space, the movie. But he
Oh,
also,
wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, and then he also produced all the Paranormal Activity movies, and then he was one of the producers on Titans. So none of the
Mhm.
CW DC shows, but on
Okay,
Titans.
on
And
Titans.
going back to our earlier conversation, he actually is he's one of the producers for. Oh no, he is the showrunner for both Picard and Strange New Worlds.
Oh wow, okay. Oh wow, he's got a lot on his plate already. So yeah, it looks like he's made a nice little deal here with Warner's. Um, it says at the time when DeLuca and Abdi are leaning in on IP that can play on a global scale theatrically, Goldsman's immediate focus will be on 2 such projects that have been percolating at the studio. He says, we're starting with 2 projects that are fun and very much Warner's, the sequel to I Am Legend and the sequel to Constantine. So I'm coming out of the gates fast. We're doing it with J.J. Abrams and Francis and Keanu, and I have been pretty deep in the story breaking stage. So they're already sort of trying to crack the story for both of those movies. Let's see here. It also says oh, they're talking about the Constantine sequel here. So it says Goldman is writing the script. It says this is a credit to Keanu, who endlessly has said, "This is the character I want to return to." Finally, he said it enough times that it's stuck. Um, Reeves' revival in the John Wick films surely helped the cause. The new film expands on the themes the original brought about maintaining the barrier between Earth and evil creatures that are on the other side. The character is very much Keanu in the way he and Francis saw the world of good and evil and the wonderful and authentic noir, where there is a world behind the world of good and evil coexists with our world right up close. Beyond that, we are still discovering it as I am writing the script. So I will say this about the Constantine stuff, Stuart. I continue to be impressed about how much Keanu Reeves really fought for this movie to certainly happen. You know, as far along as his career has certainly come, Constantine is probably a film he could probably have just forgotten about and moved on. But I didn't even realize how much of an attachment or how much he was connected with this character to have constantly been in their ear, I would assume, for decades to try and get this movie certainly made. And yeah, I think they're right. The idea of their I think the idea of oops, I don't want to put I don't damn it, I didn't mean to do that. I've accidentally blocked somebody in the chat instead of putting them on timeout. So I have to unblock them a little bit later. Sorry about that.
Oh, what was the comment they made that made you put him on timeout?
They put a spoiler up there from Quantum Mania, I believe.
Oh, okay, got it.
Hold on, I'm a private chat you here real quick. Yeah, if he was trolling or not. But yeah, the one thing that I'm impressed about though is the idea of Keanu Reeves wanting to do this movie for such a long time, and based off of just the Keanu sans that we're currently in these days, it certainly makes sense for him to go ahead and get to get this opportunity made. But what do you think about this?
Even though I keep saying that I'm going to watch Constantine, I still haven't gotten around to it. But knowing that Keanu Reeves really wants to go back to this role, I feel like there's got to be a good reason behind it. So I definitely do need to check this out before the sequel comes out. And yeah, it kind of makes me curious based on how this movie goes. If knowing that James Gunn is kind of behind it, I'm very curious to see whether or not he would be interested in integrating that movie into the new DCU, or if it's going to be a Elseworlds standalone. That's I think the big question that we all have on our mind currently. But yeah, if Keanu wants to do this, man, this guy is an easy money maker, so it's no wonder that Warner Brothers is like 100% on board with this.
Yeah, there's a part of me that really wants to see this Constantine movie part of the DCU, but I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. Um, let's see here. Okay, so another tent pole is a sequel to I Am Legend. Um, Goldsman would not say how Michael B. Jordan fits into the Last Man on Earth storyline, but said that the film will lean into the Richard Matheson novel the original was based on. He says this will start a few decades later than the first. I'm obsessed with The Last of Us, where we see the world just post-apocalypse, but also after 20 to 30-year lapse. You see how the earth reclaims the world, and there's something beautiful in the question of, as man steps away from being the primary tenant, what happens? That will be especially visual in New York. I don't know if they'll climb up to the Empire State Building, but the possibilities are endless. We trace back to the original Matheson book and the alternate ending, as opposed to the released ending in the original film. What Matheson was talking about was that man's time on this planet as the dominant species had come to an end. That's a really interesting thing we're going to explore. There will be a little more fidelity to the original text. I will say this, Stuart. This does make me want to go back and check it out. It says Goldman said DeLuca and Abdi shared his commitment to target thoughtful things that can play theatrically. We're all trying to figure out where the strike zone is, and I want to be able to help with IP I know and find pieces that are a little more actory and story driven, but not as IP driven. Yeah, I guess for me, when it comes to the I Am Legend stuff, I get the idea that they want to sort of go back to the Richard Matheson sort of storyline for the I Am Legend film, but it is one of those things where it's like, so now I got to go back and watch this movie again. Not that I have a problem watching it again, but like if I watch the theatrical version, is and that's all that I know, am I going into the sequel without doing the proper homework? So now I got to go back and watch this movie, but I got to find the alternate ending to watch that to see how it properly ended in order to fully be on board with this. It's just odd to me. My question is, why didn't we just release the alternate ending as the actual ending? But I don't remember how long ago it's been since the movie was released. That's probably me looking at things in hindsight. But I there's a part of me that's just like, dude, just continue where you left off at theatrical wise. But I guess they want to keep things a little bit more open-ended for themselves by going with the alternate ending route. How do you feel about that when it comes to I Am Legend?
Man, good question, because I can't think. Please, in the chat, let me know if I'm wrong about this. I can't think of another movie that's done that before, where they've gone with the alternate ending as being canon and not the
What was
the
released?
theatrical released, as canon. Like, that is very interesting to me. I have nothing against this personally. I'm just kind of wondering how it's gonna, because obviously, again, we talk about the average moviegoer and how they don't like look into this stuff the same way we do. So I'm wondering how many people are gonna go into this movie and are gonna be completely confused, being like, wait, this isn't how the previous movie ended. What?
Yeah, and I guess that's probably my concern too. Is like, I read this article, I hear what he's saying. I might be the type that'll go back and actually watch the alternate ending and understand. But if I'm a general audience member and I just remember seeing the movie years ago, but don't necessarily remember anything, how am I going to receive sort of the sequel picking up where I definitely don't remember it leaving me off at, you know what I mean? So I will be interested to see how they kind of pull that off. But yeah, like you mentioned, I don't think I've ever seen that done before, where it's like, yeah, we're just going to ignore the ending of what we released and we're just going to go with the alternate ending for one. I always feel like it's the opposite around, but it's interesting to me. It's a definitely a head scratch for sure. But if they're breaking the script right now, maybe they got some really good ideas. But this is definitely unique. I've never quite heard this one before. But let us know your thoughts, guys. We've got Constantine and I Am Legend sequel currently in the works. What are you certainly excited for? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Stuart, is there a way? Are you able to unblock anybody?
Oh, let me see if I can find out. Oh man, doesn't even let you click on their thing. That's really annoying.
Yeah, I wonder if we have to actually like go to the channel information, um,
Huh.
and see like if there's like, hey, these are the people you've blocked. I might have to unblock them. I didn't mean to unblock them. I what I meant to do was so Simon in the live chat, he posted he said spoiler warning, and then he said something about Quantum Mania, and I read it and I'm like, oh nope, I hope that I didn't know if it was true or not, so I went to go ahead and put user in timeout, and I accidentally clicked the block user button. So sorry, Simon, if you're out there somewhere. I did not mean to block you, dude. I did not mean to block you.
Please don't unsubscribe.
Yeah, I hope you can forgive me, man. I didn't mean to unblock you, but you got, you can't be scaring me like that, man, with these fake spoilers. You know what I'm saying? Can't. I appreciate the spoiler warning, but I had already read it, man. I already read it. But yeah, luckily I don't think it was a real spoiler though.
It's like when people put like a spoiler thumbnail, and they show an image that clearly spoils what they're about to talk about, but then they put like spoiler on the thumbnail, and it's like, well, what good does that do now? Because I already know what you're spoiling.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. With that out of the way, we got one last topic we'll knock out before your guys' live viewer questions, and we'll stick in the realm of DC and Warner Brothers. As look, we are fresh into the final season of The Flash. Season 9 has dropped 2 episodes so far. I'm hoping the second episode review from Indy drops later on today, but he did have something unfortunate come up. So we'll keep you guys posted in regards to when episode 2 drops. But the final season is upon us, and we continue to get more and more surprises of people that are going to be in this upcoming season. And this past week was certainly no exception, as we wind up getting new reveals from tvline.com to let us know that 2 speedsters are in fact returning to The Flash for its final season. Stuart, let's go ahead and dive into this and see what speedsters they're certainly talking about. But it looks as though we've got Teddy Sears as Zoom, and good old John Wesley Shipp starting to come back as Jay Garrick. Some of my 2 favorite speedsters that we've had in the entire series of the show. It says 2 more speedsters are making tracks for the Flash season, a final season. 1 super friend and 1 fiendish foe. Series vet John Wesley Shipp and Teddy Sears are both set to appear during season 9. TV Line has learned exclusively reprising their respective roles as Jay Garrick and Hunter Zolomon. It says previewing Sears Encore. The Flash showrunner Eric Wallace says, as one of the most memorable villains ever, he scared and delighted the audiences in season 2. And now I'm happy to announce that the brilliant Teddy Sears is coming back as the evil Zoom, aka Hunter Zolomon, for one more battle against Team Flash. It's a reunion I've been hoping could happen for several seasons, and now I'm excited that we were finally able to bring Teddy and the incredible talents back into our Flash family for our epic and emotional 9th season. So get ready to be frightened again. And as for Shipp's latest swing by Central City, Flash fans have loved John Wesley Shipp's heroic and heartwarming portrayal on our show since its inception. So it's a huge honor to have John back as part of our epic final season. This time, John lends his incredible talents to an incredibly emotional story, one that sheds new light on Barry Allen's tragic past. So it seems as though Jay Garrick certainly has more to share with Barry Allen here. What are you feeling about this, Stuart? Did you see this coming? Is this something that gives you even more hype for season 9? How are you feeling about this news?
This was something I was definitely hoping to happen, but I didn't want to get my hopes too high up because, with the Flash season 9 having only 13 episodes, there's only so many like things they can really check off their list of like, things to really end the show with. But yes, I am really glad. Anytime they bring back John Wesley Shipp as Jay Garrick is always a win in my book. Even when they brought him back in Stargirl, I freaking, even though it's very brief, when he's in Stargirl, especially in his last cameo that he did. I still absolutely just like love him as the Flash. I think he's great as Jay Garrick. And as for bringing in Zoom, this was another thing I've been wanting to see ever since, they finished Crisis on Infinite Earths, only because of the way the universe has been rewritten. So, we're now supposed to believe that essentially anything relating to the multiverse has never actually happened within the Arrowverse at this point. And only like the main characters that were part of the Crisis event have the memories of the multiverse. So I'm very curious how Zoom's whole storyline is going to be written now, because now, supposedly like the Earth 2 stuff would have had to have been very different. So I'm very curious how they're going to write his character going into the Flash, how they're going to rewrite him, how they're going to tell that history. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. Plus, I overall just really liked him as a villain. It was really funny because you go from a very sympathetic villain, or not super sympathetic, but mostly sympathetic for the most part when it comes to Eobard Thawne in some areas, even like with the hints of him having redemption to him. And it's interesting kind of going from that to Zoom, who's just like an irredeemable psychopath who loves causing pain onto other people just because it gives him pleasure. So it'll be interesting to see that type of villain return in the Flash, especially with Eric Wallace as the showrunner, because one thing Eric Wallace really loves to do is give villains a redemption. But here you have a villain that to me can't be redeemed, honestly. So I'm really curious to see how Eric Wallace writes this character. And I really hope he doesn't try to give him a redemption arc. You know what I mean? I hope he doesn't try to change anything about Zoom, because to me, Zoom is one of those characters that doesn't deserve to be redeemed at all. So I really hope they keep that going forward within this last season of The Flash.
Yeah, I definitely hope no redemption arc for this dude at all. But I agree with you. I definitely wanted to see him return. I've been wanting to see him return for quite some time, and we've got other speedsters, and I just keep asking, can I get Zoom back? Can I get Zoom back, please? Can I get Zoom back? But honestly, I think the way with some of Eric Wallace's storytelling, man, I do feel like a redemption arc might happen, or something crazy might happen to kind of ruin it for me. But for me, Zoom made season 2 for me, man. I mean, I absolutely love the first 2 seasons of The Flash were just pure perfection for me. And it was because of Hunter Zolomon and Teddy Sears, who just did a remarkable job. Just a terrifying figure. I love the costume design. I always thought I love the mystery behind what season 2 certainly was. It was just hella fun and scary, and it felt like the stakes were high as well. It was just a really well done season. And so the fact that Zoom in some way or another is going to be returning in here, it may certainly just be a one-off episode. That's fine. But I just hope that Eric Wallace certainly makes the best of it, because I am really looking forward to seeing them come back. And look, I think we all love ourselves some John Wesley Shipp. So anytime he gets to come back as Jay Garrick, I'm certainly here. And I also appreciate this article letting us know, especially through Eric Wallace, that apparently there's more to him and Barry's story. Certainly more story to unfold. Apparently there's something that he's got to have a conversation with him about. That might alter things this season, so it should be pretty eye-opening to say the least. But this is a great news once again, if you ask me, for the return of these speedsters to the final season. So I'm really hoping for good things going forward.
Here's the other thing. As much as I really like the shoot, I totally forgot it. You just said his name and I totally forgot it, but the actor that plays Zoom,
Teddy Sears.
Teddy Sears. Yeah, as much as I think Teddy Sears is good in the role, nothing can beat when he has the mask on, and we have Tony Todd voicing the character Zoom. So I hope they can afford to get him back for just this one last appearance.
Oh my God, that would be incredible. That would be absolutely incredible. I hope they pull that off. I really do. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Zoom and Jay Garrick are coming back for the final season of The Flash. Marcelino says the only thing that makes me think that Zoom won't be redeemed is the Eric Wallace hasn't been redeeming villains lately, so hopefully he
That's true.
listens to fan criticism. So yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, not as often as he was in season 7, where like season 7, it was just a lot of things about season 7. The villains getting redeemed the way they, because I'm all about redemption. Don't get me wrong, I'm not, but the way they were being redeemed just always felt so lazy and half-assed. So I hope that doesn't happen.
All right, guys. I think that will wrap up all of our stories. So, yeah, let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. With that out of the way, Stuart, I think you know what time it is, sir.
What time is? Oh, that's right. I think if I'm not mistaken, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we've got your live viewer questions here for you guys today. So thank you very much, guys, for everybody that certainly participated. If you ever would like to go ahead and submit a question over, it's pretty simple for the most part. Let me go ahead and show you how to do it. So always go over to our YouTube page. Usually on Wednesday or any day after Wednesday, we will usually go ahead and put up a live viewer questions post on our community tab. So if you're here at our YouTube page, just go over to community. And just find the most recent live viewer questions post. And then feel free to submit your questions. And today we got 26 questions. Let me go ahead and sort this out. And as always, guys, any questions that we may not necessarily be able to get done on the show, either myself or Stuart, or maybe both of us, will tackle a live viewer questions video separate from this to go ahead and round out all of your guys' questions. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart. We got good old Ram Jam certainly coming through for us today. He says, oops, I forgot to put up the boop. There we go. Hey, Adam, how's it going? Hope you and your family are doing well. We are, sir. Thank you, Ram Jam. A couple of questions. What are your thoughts on Hasbro releasing the Master Morpher as part of the Lightning Collection? And what are your thoughts on the next Sentai season, Osama Sentai King Ozier? We kind of talked about this at the top. It was kind of like a last-minute honorable mention I just kind of chucked in there. But I don't collect Lightning Collection stuff, but this might be something I decide to go ahead and pick up in honor of JDF. But for me, I'm really thankful for the announcement. I'm glad that this is certainly happening for fans. And I'm glad that Hasbro and JDF were actually working together. I didn't know what their relationship was like behind the scenes, if it was, if it was volatile or what, if they maybe just didn't get along or whatever the case may be. I have no idea. But I literally just posted, or at least retweeted, something that somebody posted on Twitter. If you guys want to check out my Twitter handle, it was the clip of JDF fighting himself at the Dimensions in Danger, or Danger in Dimension. I can't remember the name of the title of the 25th anniversary, but over that battle was a voiceover of JDF talking about how him and Hasbro came together to come up with the Morphing Master idea, which was certainly his. And again, Stuart, I love the idea that he literally says, "Hey guys, you want $1 million? You guys want $1 million idea here?" And he decides, just let's do the Master Morpher. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea, man. I think it's one of those things, again, like we already knew what JDF did for the fans when he was alive, but the idea that even after his passing, that there are things in motion for Power Ranger fans that are still coming from him and his ideas, I think it's just brilliant. It just continues to build on his legacy of just how unselfish he was in certain circumstances, and really wanted to take care of the fans. I think he was just brilliant in that sense. What about you, Stuart?
I just saved and retweeted your post, so that way I can come back to it later. Because
Listen to it.
Yeah, I gotta listen to that later because that sounds awesome. But yeah, just knowing that JDF was kind of like with a person that kind of pushed the idea of the Master Morpher as a toy. I'm all for it. I don't normally collect as much as I wish I could. It feels like every time there's like kind of a new wave coming, it's like I always want to try, but then I always kind of like, whether it's because like too much money or just, I fall behind, I end up just kind of giving up. But this is going to be one of those things that I do purchase for sure.
Yeah, I definitely might purchase this for myself as well. As far as my thoughts on the next Sentai, Osama Sentai King Ozier, I will say, we did do a video specifically in regards to it earlier this week as we had character details and the new trailer wind up dropping out of the press conference. It looks exciting to me. I'm a sucker for sort of like the medieval time period, if you will, or at least the idea of like dragons and knights and magic and stuff. And so the fact that we've got like different kingdoms here, our King Osiers representing each particular kingdom, I think is really cool, going back to the swords and capes and the costumes. Like the armored costumes look fucking incredible to me. There's just there's an essence of like common rider design to these costumes. It just feels like, at least this season, it feels like it's very common rider inspired to a certain extent. So I'm cool with the idea of them experimenting a little bit and seeing what this ride they're about to take us on is certainly going to be. But outside of the characters and the suits and stuff, and just the trailer was, I was really a big fan of the trailer, honestly, too. I think it looks super cinematic. I love the designs of the Megazord itself, or the main Zord. I even got the opportunity to see like the shot of like the cockpit of like the Red Ranger with like this. What was that? Every time I see it, I just automatically think of that Matt Damon movie, Asylum, or something like that,
Oh,
where he's like a prisoner or something like that, but he makes like this art, like this suit, like this exoskeleton kind of suit, and then he like breaks free into the city or whatever. I can't remember. I think it's called Asylum or Asylum or some shit like that. But the exosuit just reminds me of that Matt Damon movie for some reason. It's an interesting concept, but I appreciate Super Sentai over like the past 3-4 years really taking swings and doing things differently for Super Sentai than they have in the past. I think this Reiwa era of Super Sentai has been very beneficial for them, and I think King Osier will be another solid notch under its belt. But we'll see what it's like when it actually airs. Do you have any thoughts on Osama Sentai King Osier?
Yeah, I think like you were saying, I really like the costume designs. They remind me a lot of Common Rider, specifically Saber, especially with the weapons that they have in
Yes.
there.
Uh-huh.
The fact that it's kind of going to be a more medieval fantasy setting also, I think, is really cool. Elysium, that was the name. Sorry, it was bothering me because
Elysium,
I'm
right?
like, well, it was something so obvious. Why can I not remember it? Elysium, that was the name. But yeah, so it actually kind of makes me want to go back because I only watched the first episode of the series. I actually never watched it all the way through. But I do kind of want to go back and watch Magi Ranger alongside with this,
Mm.
just kind of because that's even though it wasn't like full on medieval, it definitely had like, fantasy like elements to it. So I would love to kind of like watch them side by side and compare, how they tackled fantasy back then compared to how they're tackling it now. And yeah, I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, Blossom says you had me at Saber, Stewart. Yeah, the swords very much remind me of Common Rider Saber for some reason. Let's see here. Marcelino, what's up, Marcelino? He says there have been countless times where you guys said that there are some Marvel and DC characters or storylines you don't know that much about, but the MCU, DCEU, or Arrowverse was your first introduction to them. But do you at one point plan on reading any of the stories these characters starred in or were a part of? And I just don't mean watching YouTubers like Comic Storian or Comics Explained to get caught up. I mean, buying the actual comics and reading them to get caught up. Comic Storian do say that it's great that people watch their videos, but that people should still buy the actual comics, whether physical or digital, to support their local comic book stores. Get the full experience of reading comics, and that their videos should not be used as complete substitutes for the real thing. I'm
Mhm.
sure there are probably going to be some characters that I'll go back and actually pick up the comic books for. Because I am a big believer in supporting your local comic book store, whether that be physically or digitally. Just supporting comic books in general, I think, is important. Like for me, while I don't maybe remember some of the Marvel or DC characters I mentioned that I'm not familiar with, but like just for a good example, like the DCU chapter one slate that we wind up getting. I'm not that familiar with the Authority, but there's a part of me that wants to go back and sort of that wants to go ahead and maybe pick up some Authority comics to kind of get an idea as to who they were. Same thing with the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I almost really want to get that Tom King story, his series that he did, that limited series, so I can learn a little bit more about his iteration of Supergirl. So I'm definitely always open to the idea. It's just a matter of, one, will I remember to do it, and two, financially, will I have the money in order to go ahead and check out some of these. But yes, there are definitely some characters I certainly would like to go back and try and learn a little bit more about.
Yeah, when it comes to the Arrowverse specifically, I don't think there are any like storylines that they introduced me to that I went back and read afterwards, because most of the storylines that they do in the Arrowverse that are like based on the really big comic books, those are usually the ones that I've already read, such as like Crisis on Infinite Earths and even Infinity Crisis, which they used a little bit of Infinity Crisis in the Crisis on Infinite Earths CW crossover, but most of these are ones that I'd already read. But yeah, when it comes to the upcoming DCU movies, I definitely want to start getting into the Authority. I did actually read the first issue of Woman of Tomorrow, and I kind of like the premise alone, just the fact that it's Kara going to a red sun, not for any noble, heroic reason, literally just because it's her 21st birthday and it's the only way she can get drunk. I think that's a hilarious way to start out your story, and I kind of hope they keep that going in the movie. Haven't finished it yet. But yeah, actually, you know what? There is one. So basically, with Kingdom Come, I had I don't think it was Comic Historian. I think it was Comics Explained. I had heard the whole story from Comics Explained, but recently I actually went back and read the full Kingdom Come comic book, and wow, it's so hard not to like. It's so hard not to go to tears at the end of that book. Like, it's really good.
It's incredible, and I'm going to age myself, but I remember picking up the book when it was being released, and I just remember being blown away for each issue. And I think it was only like a 4-parter, if I'm not mistaken. But I was also a really big fan of Alex Ross as an artist at the time. He had just come off of he did a book called Marvels for Marvel Comics, and that was a great series that he wound up putting together. Just amazing artwork. And when I found out that he was going to be doing Kingdom Come, I had to pick it up, and it was just an amazing 4-parter. So if you've never read Kingdom Come, definitely do yourself a favor for sure, guys. Carter Matthews, he says, in Fast X, do you think Paul Walker's character of Brian O'Connor could return? We know at the end of Fast 9 we saw his iconic Nissan Skyline drive up to the Toretto house, and everyone looked and smiled at him before the camera faded out. It would be really, really cool to see Brian back again and on screen by bringing back Paul Walker's brother as stand-ins and the use of the CGI to recreate him since Fast 7. Jason Momoa's monologue in the trailer did say that he was going after everyone in the Fast family, so it would make sense for him to also target Brian, since Dante is now connected as being around since Fast 5. Brian's wife Mia did return during Fast 9 and for Fast X, so if Brian weren't to return on screen, we could at least get a brief reference where he knew of Dante's return and took his 2 children into hiding, maybe during the beginning of Fast X or in the middle. Don mentions that when Brian came to the family barbecue at the end of Fast 9, that was when he warned them of Dante. What do you think? I'll go to you for this one, Stuart. How do you feel about that?
I always say that it's the family that should make these kind of decisions when it comes to whether or not it would be disrespectful. So I think that if it's the brother that's playing Brian, I'm definitely not opposed to this idea. I don't know if I'd want to see Brian's face CG'd on him the entire movie, though. I kind of would hope that they just recast him with one of his brothers, and no one just say anything except for, oh, did you get a haircut, or something like that, the kind of like the cliche like they usually do when it comes to recasting and that kind of stuff. I don't know about how I'd feel about a full CG Paul Walker like for the whole movie. So but yeah, I'm not opposed to it as long as they got the permission from his siblings.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it would be weird for me to see him on screen a lot. So if it was a brief cameo, maybe, but again, at the behest of his, as long as it's at the request of his family members and they're okay with it, then I'm okay with it. Jack Daniels, because it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Have you guys seen Adam Sandler's movie Click? I feel like we've talked about Click before. Any fan favorite films of his? While the film did have the usual Adam Sandler jokes, the movie on its own, I think, is one of his underrated films. The moral of the film was to never take your life and family for granted. Majority of the comedic scenes all had to do with Adam after Adam got his hands on the magical universal remote and trying to make shortcuts. Since I was a kid, I never expected the last hour to be a dark drama where Adam's character, Michael Newman, and his life was cut short very rapidly, that he had to make amends with his family for not being there for them during the times when the remote was on autopilot, fast forwarding through everything. Even the beginning of the film, he would prioritize work over family. I will say that too, Stuart. I don't necessarily know if I expected the turn that movie took. I felt like it had like 2 or 3 different tones throughout the film, and it always kind of surprised me in that sense. I don't want to read too much because I don't want to ruin it for people that haven't had the opportunity to certainly check it out. But he definitely mentions that it showed more of his dramatic side for sure. And I feel like for me, I feel like ever since I saw Click, after that, it almost feels like Adam Sandler started, I don't want to say taking his career seriously, but at least diving more into the drama aspect of his ability, which I've been pretty impressed with. He says, overall, if anyone has any close family members who they wish they were closer to, then this is the movie to certainly inspire you. So yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Click. I think I've only seen it once, maybe once or twice, maybe once in theaters and then again on TV. And I've always been a big fan of it. Any other films of his too, Stuart, that you liked outside of Click?
Oh man, a lot.
Yeah, he's
As
got
much as I make fun of Adam Sandler, he does have some movies that I really enjoyed. But one that actually I feel like is pretty underrated personally. I really liked his remake of The Longest Yard. I actually thought it was not as good as the original, but definitely a really good, like, for its own, it took a very different like kind of tone from the original movie, and I think it did that tone really well for what it was trying to do. Yeah.
One of my favorite Adam Sandler movies is 50 First Dates
Mm.
with Drew Barrymore. It's a movie that honestly I can put on any time and just have a blast with it. It's still so funny to me. I love the message in the movie. Also, I was a big fan of 50 First Dates. That's one of my favorites. But yeah, this man he's got so many fucking movies. I mean, Little Nicky, Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, Big Daddy, The Water Boy, I think is a fan favorite, right? Happy Gilmore, I think is another. The Wedding Singer, Billy Madison. I mean, the list goes on in regards to like this man's career when it comes to Mr. Deeds. I mean, yeah, the list goes on and on. But for me, I think 50 First Dates is one of my favorites, followed very closely by The Waterboy and Happy Gilmore.
Mhm.
Let's see here. What else we got? Adam Perea, the first 2 episodes of Power Rangers Zeo still amaze me. It still gives me goosebumps when right after the opening credits, we got a recap of what just happened in the final moments of MMPR. The Rangers looking for the Zeo crystal for nearly the entire first episode was really cool because it showed that they were in the dark place where they lost their powers, and Zordon and Alpha were presumed gone if they were teleported out of the command center right after the explosion. When the team found the Zeo crystal on the ground, started shaking, was very reminiscent of the first episode of MMPR, Day of the Dumpster. The team reuniting with Zordon and Alpha in the new power chamber, then getting their powers, was just surreal. Truly felt like a new beginning, though it was a bittersweet that Billy chose to no longer be a Ranger and give his crystal to Tanya. Jumping forward, what I love about Zeo was that Jason was an amazing choice to become the Gold Ranger for the rest of the series, and the tease that it was Billy was actually a fantastic lead up to it. The lowest point of the show for me was the whole Tommy's brother subplot and Billy's unceremonious exit. I feel like Billy was left to influence the show up to in space. It would have been an amazing setup of Billy's role behind the scenes as the guy who was doing other things in the shadows. While we didn't get an actual Megazord fight in the final episode, the ending with Tommy confronting Jason after the loss of his powers was simply beautiful. Just seeing those two exchange their final words together was so heartfelt and wholesome, and glad that we got to see them together one more time in Forever Red as the two OGs. What did you love about Zio, and you think we'll most certain will likely learn of what Billy's been up to since Zio? I think we will. I think
Mhm.
we'll learn. I think Billy will give us a brief recap as to what he's been doing this time. Is he married? You know, like what's going on since he left for Aquitar. So I am kind of curious to see the future that Billy has created for himself. But I do think that we will learn a little bit about that. Do you have anything that you love in particular about CO?
Oh, I absolutely love the episode where they wrote Billy out of the show. I'm totally kidding. No, that was definitely, I agree. That was one of the worst like written
I
moments of
hated it.
CO ever. Yeah. But Gold Ranger moment, got it, when they reveal it is Jason, freaking amazing. Just yeah, that whole like chase scene through the desert and how we don't see the face, and then it gets like just the buildup was so perfect for that. I also like the tease that they did with Billy, kind of implying that he was the Gold Ranger for a little bit, and then of course, as we find out later, that wasn't the case. And God, I love that this felt like the first step into the Power Rangers becoming a little bit more of a mature show, like still a show for kids, but it kind of felt like, with the exception of Turbo, like season after season, the writers were getting more comfortable with tackling more mature themes and having the stakes just be a lot darker. There was a little bit of a step back when it came to Turbo, but then they went right back to that with Power Rangers in Space, Lost Galaxy, etc. But I really feel like the first step of that was with Power Rangers Zeo.
Yeah, Zio definitely. I will totally agree with you. I do think that Zio was certainly that first step into getting to that point. Let's see here. Cena Nerd has joined us today. What's up, Cena Nerd? Don't know if that's Sarah or Will, but whoever it is, it's certainly glad to see you around here, man, for sure. Thank you, certainly coming through. Marcelino also says Eric Frank was also planned to at one point be the Gold Ranger as well. That would have been a fun dynamic. That would have been pretty interesting to see how they would have pulled that off. Let's see here. And whoever it is from Cena Nerd, I will say we had ourselves a nice little Star Trek conversation in our honorable mentions that I think maybe you might be proud of checking out, if that's Will. Let's see here. Let me knock this one out of the way real quick for Nicole. Hey, y'all. Hope you're doing well. What do you think of Kevin Feige releasing a statement about releasing fewer Disney Plus shows in the future due to mixed reactions from the fans being overwhelmed by the amount of content that they've been coming out for Phase 4? And what do you want to see that's different for Phase 5 and 6 after this change, both TV shows and movies? What do you want to see that's different? Well, look, I will just say, well, I appreciate them spacing out the content. A lot of this content, I think, luckily, I don't think all of Phase 5 and 6 is like completed yet, right? Like, I don't necessarily know if everything already has a script or not, but if anything, I'm just hoping that they're able to recapture the magic. I'm hoping that while they definitely have some shows that are certainly already in the bag and ready to drop and ready to go, there is a part of me that those that have not been fully produced and written and things like that are still waiting for their time, I do hope that they kind of take a step back a little bit and kind of look at what they're creating and whether or not they make some changes or they take a whole nother mindset towards it. I hope that the idea of spacing things out and changing their focus allows them to kind of go back to the drawing board and really sink their teeth into putting storytelling above anything else, and just kind of getting back to that MCU gold that we're kind of used to seeing. But I think it's the right move, and I think it's a good move, and it'll be interesting to see like how much of Phase 5 and 6 actually benefits from that move actually happening. You know what I mean? But what about you, Stuart? How do you feel about all that?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with what you said. The idea of having them spaced out more so they can, take their time a little bit more with each one individually is a very smart move. And I also am kind of like in the interview that Kevin Feige said, I really look forward to seeing some of the shows actually take on a more episodic format. I look forward to seeing how they dip their toe in the water with Daredevil with that, and then hopefully, if it works out for that, we can see, just not saying every MCU show should be like that, but it would be nice to see like them go from mini series to kind of like more episodic storytelling, kind of back and forth depending on which character we're focusing on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Dino Knights for Fight for Your Rights. It says the two-part episode of Shane's Karma is one of my favorite Battleizer introductions in Power Rangers. This was also Pua Magasiva's best episode in all of Ninja Storm, according to fans. I just love how he had to overcome his nightmares that he kept having by finding his guardian angel named Skyla, who had actually saved. He had actually saved when they were little from the villain Vexicus. Skyla herself having to sacrifice herself to give Shane the special power was just so powerful and heartbreaking because the woman he had practically spent his life searching for ran out of time. This story arc as a whole developed Shane as a ranger. Skyla's sacrifice meant that even though she was gone, she was always with Shane in his heart forever. Her passing away was one of the rare times we actually have a character die on screen in Power Rangers. I also like the small touch in the parallel dimension episode, The Wild Wipeout, when the Rangers, except Tori, were evil. Shane didn't use the Battleizer, meaning no matter what reality Shane was in, only his pure of heart could use the Battleizer. Do you have any favorite Battleizers and power-ups, Stuart? Favorite Battleizers?
I mean, I have a favorite, but not for the right reasons. It's my favorite because it made me laugh so hard. But that was like one of the originals from Power Rangers in Space, when we first see him like powering up, and it's basically just the same costume, but he has a crap ton of muscles on him, and he looks like the action figure basically. That was my favorite just because it made me laugh so hard. Besides that, though, I do actually really like the Battleizer that was used in SPD. And it's pretty obvious that the people behind the Sentai show liked it too, because they ended up bringing that Battleizer into the Magi Ranger, Deca Ranger crossover movie, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at some different Battleizers. Wild Force was actually pretty cool. I did appreciate that. What was Ninja Storm's Battleizer looking like? Oh yeah, Ninja Storm's was actually pretty cool too. Man, that's pretty fucking slick. I can't even lie. What else do we have? Is there a Jungle Fury Battleizer? Oh, that looks pretty dope. I actually even liked Devin's Battleizer from, or at least I viewed it as a Battleizer from Beast Morphers. The claws that he had.
Oh yeah.
It was simple enough, but and the chest plate and stuff, I was actually a really big fan of that as Battleizer.
Ooh, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the series, I do really like the Samurai Battleizer too.
Let me see if I can find that one. Samuraizer Battleizer.
Yeah. And then another one I kind of liked, but I feel like it didn't fit the show. But I also really like the look of the Time Force Battleizer. The episode and just the overall Battleizer itself felt very like out of place.
Out of place. Yeah, I get it. I'm a sucker for I love wings. So the Battleizers with wings are usually the ones that I'm like, ooh, it got my interest. All right, this is going to be the last question here. Jackson Peterson, you'll be the last question for today. And then the most talented man in the world will pick up from you and then make our way all the way up to Doomsday. So I'll try and work on that tonight or Monday to review, to go over those questions for you guys and then drop it either Tuesday Yeah, probably if not tomorrow, then I'll drop Tuesday for you guys. So stay tuned for that. So last but not least, Jackson Peterson. You already talked about this, but I'll go ahead anyway. What do you guys think of the brand new trailer for the Flash movie? I thought it was super impressive. I watched it like 10 times since it came out. It really gave me the vibes of Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover that we had in 2019. And of course, the Flashpoint episode of The Flash. I was completely shocked to see Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton as Batman. Seeing two versions of Ezra Miller as Barry Allen was interesting yet odd at the same time, because we all know about his legal troubles behind the scenes. While some people aren't excited to see this movie because of him, I myself and many others are all for it. The CGI in my eyes was really, really good, except for the exact scene where we see two Barrys in his bedroom. Anyways, I'm super excited for this new movie, and I'm very curious if this movie will either lead to a new James Gunn reboot or just end as a standalone film. I know DC removed tons of connections to the Snyderverse, even though Ben Affleck is indeed back, since he and Ezra were already part of the Snyderverse. Yeah, I believe that they removed a lot of DC connections in movies after that, after Flashpoint. So like Batgirl, I think, Batgirl unfortunately got canceled, but I do think there's probably things in maybe the Aquaman movie that might have kind of gotten scrapped or cut out, that maybe might have come from Flashpoint or had some connections to it. So again, James Gunn has said some things will change due to this Flashpoint movie, but not everything. So some things will change, some things will certainly stay the same here. Yeah, what were your thoughts on the trailer, Stuart? And anything that really jumps out at you?
The major thing that, first of all, I think the trailer was pretty awesome for the most part. My only like nitpicks is I do think there are some VFX shots that didn't look as polished as you would expect from a movie with a budget like this. But I'm sure it'll look better once like the actual movie comes out. But one of my favorite things though was just seeing the new like redesign of the costume from the the 1989 Batman movie. I absolutely think this is perfect because it captures everything I loved about that costume, and it changes just enough to make it look perfectly modernized for like a modern Batman movie, basically. And I love being able to see Michael Keaton in that suit being able to do stunts that you never would have been able to see back then because they didn't have the CG technology back then to, do that kind of a thing. So that's like one of the other really big things that I'm looking forward to about it. And yeah, I'm very curious how this is going to end, because they could really use this as like an opportunity to really hit that reset button hard if they want to, but also, kind of introduce us to what this new universe is going to be. So yeah, I thought it was a very solid trailer. I'm looking forward to the movie.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and yeah, I am kind of curious as to how this will end. I don't believe that this is going to end just on its own note and just leave it as its own standalone film. I do believe that we'll get ourselves, if not a mid-credit scene, then a post-credit scene, maybe two post-credit scenes after this, to really kind of establish the changes that are certainly headed our way for the DCU. I don't know if this movie is locked in place yet, and by that means I don't necessarily know if they've got like an absolute final cut that's ready to release in June, or if they're still kind of making whatever changes or reshoots if they absolutely need to. Who certainly knows? So I do think that there's plenty of time for things to certainly still change, but I do think that this movie, when it ends, will certainly lead into a little bit of what James Gunn is certainly working on. For me, I would agree with you, Stuart. Seeing Michael Keaton back as Batman was incredible. It was even more odd to kind of see him in daytime, like when they're breaking into whatever prison that they're in. I'm assuming maybe that's where they rescue Supergirl. I have no idea. But when he's like, we're gonna need help, and he does the whole fist thing sort of thing, like him being outside in the daylight just seems so weird for me for a Michael Keaton Batman. But he looks so good doing it also. So like this just has vibes of a Captain America Civil War film for me, in a sense that it is a Flash movie and it will focus very heavily on the Flash because we got Ezra Miller in here, but there's so many other moving parts and pieces and characters involved in this overall story that it's just going to be this big bombastic sort of event film. And I think that's what I'm truly looking forward to. And, just looking at Andy Muschietti and his directorial experience from what he's done in his past, and seeing just this trailer alone, there are some shots in here that I think like did Zack Snyder film this shit? Like it almost looks like they literally ripped out the same sort of cinematography and image or filters or whatever from like Man of Steel to put in this movie. So it does feel like a really cool culmination of like everything that's come before in the DCEU into what we're going to be jumping into when it comes to James Gunn. So despite the legal troubles that Ezra Miller is coming into, despite the fact that I unfortunately have to sit through two versions of this dude on screen at the same time, I do think that there is an incredible story behind this that's going to be told. And, you know, listen, if James Gunn says this is one of the best comic book superhero movies he's ever seen, you know, I'm going to listen. Whether or not that's true or not, I'll definitely tamper my expectations a little bit. But if he says something like that, I'm definitely going to be paying attention. So yeah, I'm pumped.
I mean, well, one thing for sure is that if I end up not liking this movie, I'm definitely not going to be taking James Gunn's word as heart as much in the future. It's like, you know, whenever he's like hyping up another movie that he didn't work on, if it's one that he just produced, like The Authorities, for example, if he goes, this movie is going to blow people away, I'm going to be like, that's what you said about the Flash movie, Mr. Gunn. So I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. Definitely a lot betting on this film, but people are going to go out and see this movie in droves. And we'll see how good it is, though. But thank you for the question. We appreciate it. But guys, other than that, that will wrap up all of our live viewer questions for the day. And again, we will go ahead and make a side video for you guys, dropping either tomorrow or Tuesday for questions that we were not able to get to today. But solid show. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have Indy stick around for the entirety, but hopefully we'll certainly have him back next weekend, as I believe he did mention his work schedule has changed. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of Indy around these parts for you guys. But Stuart, as we wrap up, if people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you, sir?
You guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at TurboStew01.
Awesome, man. And guys, we have a ton of content headed your way. Again, we're doing the Flash reviews. Stuart's going to be tackling Superman and Lois for you guys. I'm going to be tackling The Mandalorian along with Gotham Knights on the channel as well. So it's March is coming, baby. We got some great content, some movie reviews going to be headed your way soon. And hopefully, if you haven't checked out our Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania non-spoiler review, Stuart did go ahead and tackle that. That's currently up on our channel, and I'm gonna try and aim for maybe like a Monday night spoiler review for Ant-Man. So it may just be me and Stuart. I'm gonna try and see if I can get Indy involved also, but come Monday evening, expect Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania spoiler review, as we'll go ahead and dig into all the details and can discuss it all night if you want. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for us here. If you want to follow us on social media, right up here at A+ Opinions, very active over on our main Facebook page, guys, where you can get all the news throughout the week. Check us out also very actively over on Twitter and Instagram. But until next time, guys, that's going to do it for us here. So do me a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.